Suddenly open your bank account or something. I wouldn't want you to do that in front of all these people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Diana, if you can hear me, what's your last name?
Heredia.
I'm sorry?
Heredia.
Heredia? Okay. Hang on.
Jackie, looking at the number of participants, you owe me a lunch.
I don't owe you anything. I owe you nada.
Yes,
Nothing.
you do. Don't think I'm not looking.
I'll buy you lunch, Vicki. You're going to do great. It's going to be good.
It's going to be. I'm excited. This is going to be fun. I'm really, really excited. And January is always the best time of the year, because people are, we're all entrepreneurs. We want to start something, maybe do something in a different direction. It's going to be great.
Exactly.
I owe you lunch. Okay, so we're going to get started. Let me let these folks in, and then we'll get this party started. You guys got a lot of information that you need to go over, and I don't want to waste any of your time. I want to make sure that you guys get the full punch of the class. Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to Small Business Fundamentals Week. I love seeing all of you here and taking part in some really good classes this week. I hope everyone had a chance to register for as many classes as they can for this week to help them get themselves started. I'm Jackie Mayo. I'm the Class and Events Coordinator for the Austin Small Business Division. And we bring you all these lovely classes for you to become a better entrepreneur, a better business owner, and for you to be the success that we know that you want to be, and the success that you're going to be, and the success that you are. Before we get started, we just to kind of give some housekeeping tips. Again, this is Austin Small Business Fundamentals Week. We have a whole host of classes this week that we invite you to take a look at, register if there's what you're looking to do. Register. We want to see you back again because we like seeing your bright and shiny faces. Also, if mark your calendars for May 1st through the 5th, which is Austin Small Business Week. Totally different from this. Another week of full classes and a whole host of other things that we're planning for that week. So just put that on your calendar. May 1st through May 5th is Austin Small Business Week. It coincides with the Small Business Administration's annual National Small Business Week, which is the first week of May every year. Also, because we are a large class today, if you guys have questions, raise your hand, and you can do that by clicking on the reactions in the bottom of your screen. There's a little thing that says reactions. You can do a thumbs up, you can raise your hand, you can clap, you can throw a heart, you can do a crying emoji. Don't do any crying emojis. Our instructor will cry. Or you can put it in the chat. As I said, open up your chat box because we're going to be throwing lots of information in there sometimes. And we just want to make sure that you have that available to you. Also, we like to ask if you can keep your cameras on if you would turn your cameras on, it lets our instructor know that she's talking to somebody. You don't have to. If you have bedhead at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we don't care. If you have kids running amok in the background, even better. We love it. If you have cats and dogs that love to photobomb, we love that too. Everybody is welcome in a chat. Also, about 30 minutes before class ends, we are going to add a link to the in the chat so that you can give us your feedback on the class. We want to know how we did. It's important that we receive your feedback only because it lets us know how we're doing. It lets our instructor know what they need to do to tweak something if they need to tweak something. So that's it for today. So with that being said, just a reminder for those of you who just popped in, if you can change your screen name to the name that you registered under, I want to make sure that I give you credit for your class, for this class. No, this class is not being recorded. We typically don't record our classes. But if you do need it recorded because you got to drop off or something like that, let me know in direct chat. Do we want to go ahead and do that, Julie? Do we want to record?
You're on mute, Julie.
If you are okay with recording it and making it available in the toolkit, I'm happy to do that. It's not a lot of work to do that. It's up to you.
Yeah,
Up
we
to
can
the
go ahead
city.
and do that.
You do want to do it?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do it and send it to folks who are already in this.
Recording in progress.
Got it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful and talented instructor, Vicky Valdez, who just, for transparency, used to be my boss. She's fantastic. So you guys are going to have, she's going to give it to you. Pay attention. Make sure you have some juice, some coffee, tea, whatever you need. It's going to be a lot of information, but it's going to be very helpful. And it's going to help you decide what are your next steps as you make this awesome small business journey that I'm so happy that we're walking with you. So I'm going to turn off my camera. I'm going to mute myself. Again, if you have any questions directly for me, go ahead and DM me right here in this, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in a bit.
Thanks, Jackie. So, as Jackie mentioned, my name is Vicky Valdez. I'm your instructor today. And we also have with us Julie Niehoff. She will be also monitoring the chat and helping me with some of the discussion today. But I'm excited, happy to be here with all of you guys. And everybody, congratulations, even if you're starting a business or if you thought, it's a new year, I need to rebuild my business, have some more thoughts and just, here's some new information, maybe so that can change things that I'm doing. Great idea. Glad you're here. But we have a lot of material to cover. And so I'm going to get right to it. But thank you again for being here today. Okay, so who am I? Vicky Valdez. So why am I teaching this? And what experience do I bring to the table? Do I have any businesses? Yes, I do. And as Jackie mentioned, I used to be with the city of Austin. I actually was the manager of the small business program, but I've since retired, and I'm now professor and assistant department chair for business entrepreneurship at Austin Community College. But where my real background and experience in owning and operating a business is, I have not only a foundation, the Lone Star Foundation, also a co-founder of a national nonprofit, Local Business Institute. But one thing that's not listed here, which I think is the most important, is that I own a goat ranch. I have a goat ranch. I've had it for many years. It's a small business. We have a herd of about 40 to 50, depending upon the time of year, whether we've sold a lot of babies or not, and have individuals that work with us, got tractors, got equipment, got this, got that. We've been in existence since 2008. So that's primarily the business. I'm going to be giving examples of when I started the business, give you some suggestions as we're going through the topic, and also talk about some other businesses and what they've done. So just wanted to give you any, that information about me. But if anybody has any questions after the class, or wants to look up some other, I don't know, some other interesting facts about me and what I bring to the table, you can find me at LinkedIn, and that Gmail account is my personal email address, but you can also find me in the directory of Austin Community College, since I am the Assistant Department Chair for Business Entrepreneurship. Okay. Let's see what else. So, agenda. What are we doing today? Oh my gosh. Introductions. I've given you my introduction. Jackie's given you her introduction. Welcome to the city of Austin again. And Julie already said hi. So we're going to go over the basics. You know, even though you're already in business, somebody may already be in business, it's a good time to just reset, start over, and just let's go back and look at the basics, if you will. Mindset of an entrepreneur is really big. Naming your business, understanding your business model, customers, resources, and cost. What are you selling? Is it a service or a product? Evaluating the market you're selling your product and service in. Creating demand and brand loyalty, and helpful resources. This is what we're going to be covering today. A lot of material to cover in the short time that we're together. I say short, we're together between now and 4, probably about 3:45, 4, but we do take 2 breaks. So at the top of the hour, right at about 2 o'clock, I will take the first break. And I'll tell you for how long and whatnot, and then we'll come back. And then top of the hour at 3, we'll take another break, and then we'll wrap up and finalize all the final topic and finish the class. But that's a design for today, and that's the agenda for today. Do you have any questions about the agenda, or there's something else that you thought you were going to hear or see today? Please place it in the chat, and then Julie can relay that to me. Okay. So in this class today, there's also a workbook. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, I encourage you to do so, or if not, later on. But the workbook has not only the slides for every one of the slides of the presentation that I'm going to go through today with all the good information that I'm going to be sharing, but it also has a place where you can write notes. You can keep notes and maybe ask some questions. It can prompt you to, just keep some tabs on things that are going on. But also, if you can't download it now, download it later, if you would. But this workbook is meant for not only to be able to use it during the class today, also to be able to use it like down the road, like after the class, as something to refer back to in addition to the resources that are provided to you in the toolkit. It's a very good document, and it's very helpful. Speaking of toolkit, at the end of the class, when you're prompted to evaluate the class, which I look forward to hearing your feedback, you will then be provided with the toolkit, and the toolkit has a lot of valuable resources, anywhere from City of Austin information to business plan templates to LegalZoom and setting up your business, to a lot of these items I will discuss in class today, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew about the workbook and the toolkit before we got started. Okay. Lots and lots of wonderful, wonderful information. So let's start. Hey, not ready to run a business? Maybe, maybe not. What do you think? Yes, no? And if you're not, that's okay. That's why we're here. That's exactly why we're here today. So things that come to mind and decisions that you need to make are, well, what am I doing? How am I doing it? I've got to make some money, right? If you're going to be running a business, you're going to be making some money. And so those kind of, got questions that come up, decisions have to be made. And so, that you have a mindset, you got a thought that's going on as far as being an entrepreneur. But the first and foremost question is, are you ready to run a business? So what does that mean? Well, business idea. You guys already come up with a business idea? If you haven't come up with a business idea, that's sometimes easier said than done. You may have an idea, but have you really formalized and really specifically defined the idea? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about, are you already in business or just starting out? So let me see a show of hands. How many of you guys are already in business today? Already started your business? Okay.
Quite a few people in the chat are saying they're starting a new one, and several are refreshing an old one, an existing
Wonderful.
one.
Okay, that helps me here. Good. So that some of you have run your business already before. So your business is based around a product or service. Please share in the chat, product or service. I just want to get a sense of the audience that I'm working with today. If you guys are going to be more product driven or service driven, either is fine. I just want to get a sense from the group today. And then also, if you have a full-time job, you're going to have a full-time job while starting your business, or if you're going at it, just I'm going for it all at once. I'll tell you that when I started my goat business, I was working at the time, but I became an empty nester. Kids were all gone, and I, decided I wanted to do something else with my time other than the job that I had. And so, being from South Texas, I'm from South Texas. I've, always been around ranches and farms. Started thinking about, I want to start a business, do something different. So I talked to a cousin of mine, and we came up with this idea. He had always been in agriculture and farming and whatnot. And so we had got to thinking about what was the idea that we're going to, if we're going to do a business, what is it going to be? So I'm going to give you some more thoughts on that and how I end up with finally coming up with South African boar goats, because you're going to think, what? Why South Africa? How'd you end up with that? I'll tell you here in a minute. But Julie, am I seeing that, is there most people product or service related? They're going
Actually, we have a pretty good balance between about a third are product, about a third are service, at least of those that have responded, and about a third are doing both or juggling a full-time job and starting a business, which to me means you're also juggling a lot. So.
You're also juggling. A lot of you guys are juggling. That's okay. That's how a lot of entrepreneurs start out rather. And so, as I mentioned, I was working and I wanted to have a business, if you will, and with an animal, and talked to a cousin of mine who had been in horses and whatnot over there, and he kept saying, okay, let's come up, what is the idea? Well, we knew that the specific industry that we wanted to be in, and farming animals, but when it came up to the idea of the animal, we wanted to be breeders, to be breeders and to be in that specific area of the agriculture business. Started thinking about cows, we started thinking about horses, we started thinking about rabbits and about chickens and about turkeys. Because think about it, you've ever been to a livestock show, there's a lot of different animals, right? Well, how do we come about with South African boar goats? Well, we did a lot of research and tried to find out how many, breeders were in town. We had to make sure that we had a market for it. But then we had to further define what is it that really was hit close to home that we had a passion about. Well, I am afraid of chickens. Okay, I'll put it out there. I'm afraid of chickens. I don't like chickens. No offense to those of you that have chickens and whatnot, but just not the animal that I was wanting to be involved in. And when we started this business, we also had fuel cost was a big issue for us. So we didn't want to have a large animal that we had to put in large trailers to be able to transport because of the cost of gas at the time. And that's still true today. This was back in 2008, but this is still true today. So we ended up, by process of elimination and research, we ended up with a South African boar goat, which is about the size of a large dog, if you will. Although my male bucks can get up to 250 pounds, 300 pounds, but they're not large animals like cattle. So they're manageable in being able to, you can transport a couple of them in a truck versus having to have a huge trailer. Okay, so that's how we came up with the business idea. But and so we just wanted to have a little bit of discussion about that, because I think some of you may have your idea, but you may have to dive into it a little bit more. Okay, so once you have your idea, I see some of you are working and starting your business. One of the first things after you come up with your business idea, we're going to get into name, we're going to get into all these other things, but you've got to establish a legal structure for your business. What I mean by that is, are you going to be a sole proprietorship, general partner? You're going to be working with someone else, which you can. Limited partnership, a limited liability company. It's an LLC. We've all heard of an LLC. Or are you going to establish as a corporation? You've got to decide this. But let me make something very clear. You have your idea. You want to start your business. This is like, where do you begin first? The legal structure of your business is really important, not only because of tax purposes, but also the way to identify you as a business with other entities that you're working with. But I'm going to back up here. This is not related to having a license in Texas. Do you need a business license in the state of Texas to run a business? And the answer is no. Okay. To have a business, you need a license to go ahead and work in to be able to provide certain services. Okay. But this is very different. This is a legal structure of your business. Okay. A lot of businesses start out as sole proprietorship. If you're working out of a home, people that are transitioning a hobby, into a small business. Some people go straight into a general partnership, limited liability company, and a corporation. You can establish those yourself, or you can seek. There's a lot of resources out there to help you set up some of these entities. And I'm going to talk about those here in a minute, but I'm going to start with, first and foremost, you've got to fill out paperwork. What does it mean by filling out paperwork? Well, sole proprietorship, you just go down to, if you're in Travis County, you go down to the Travis County Clerk's office and you file what's called a DBA, doing business as, an assumed name certificate. Okay. And when you go to Travis County, you can do a name search to make sure that you're not choosing a name that somebody already has in that county. But the other thing is that you register. And the nice thing about a sole proprietorship is that it's $26 to register a name for 10 years. That's all it is. Okay. You establish the name, boom, you've got your legal entity established, and boom, you can start. The issue with a sole proprietorship, though, is a sole proprietorship, you carry the most risk. Now, I'm not going to be able to, in this class, to talk about all the advantages and disadvantages of every one of these entities, but there's other classes, other resources that you can reach out, that you can take advantage of. The city has some. Where they can help you with some of that. But today, I'm primarily just going to bring up the point that you've got to set up your legal entity and what the legal entity choices are. Okay. Sole proprietorship is one, filing with Travis County. Partnerships, you file with the Secretary of State. In your workbook, you have links to every one of these organizations where you can fill out your paperwork. But yes, unfortunately, in starting your business, one of the first things you have to do is you have to establish and you have to fill out the, I don't know, Julie, what's the word I'm looking for? Uncomfortable, things that we don't want to do kind of paperwork. You know what I mean?
Are you talking about bylaws and all of that?
Yes.
The rules that we agree to?
That we agree to. Yeah, there are rules that we do need to follow. So thank you. So talked a little bit about the business structures, if you will, and there's some resources in the toolkit. LegalZoom can help you. I'm not by any means saying that you have to go use LegalZoom, but there are services available to help you in establishing an LLC, a corporation, also in setting up a nonprofit. If some of you in this class are setting up a non-for-profit, a nonprofit entity, there's also some resources available. So next thing I'm going to move into is taxes. There's only two things that we are guaranteed anywhere. And what are they? The two things that we're guaranteed: death and taxes, right? Taxes, taxes, taxes. So yes, you set up your business and now you got to talk about your tax responsibilities. Your tax responsibilities are first and foremost IRS.gov. Well, when you register your business as an entity, meaning that you choose your legal structure, whether it's a sole proprietorship, partnership, LLC, corporation, nonprofit, whatever it may be, wherever you set up your paperwork, that entity will notify IRS that you are a legal entity. So then IRS is going to be expecting tax returns from you, right? That's how it works. And so federal taxes is one of the first and foremost things that we have to take care of as business owners. Sales tax. If you're not clear whether the product or service that you're selling, now you've chosen which product and service you're selling. If you, for some reason, are not sure whether there is a sales tax to be imposed on the sale of your product or your service, the Comptroller of Public Accounts is where you need to find that out. And you also need to get a sales tax license. Now, not every product, well, I think most every product, there's a sales tax imposed on it, unless you're a special area that the legislature of Texas decided, not to impose a sales tax on. But services, not all services are required to have a sales tax imposed on them. So before you start thinking, do I need to charge a sales tax get registered with the Comptroller of Public Accounts. This is the state of Texas. In Austin, the state tax is six and a quarter, I believe it is, 6.25 for our state. And then the rest of the tax that you pay, because in Travis County, we pay 8.25 sales tax, right? On everything that we buy. Well, pretty much everything that we buy. That extra 2%, that's local. That's local tax. That's not your state tax. And this is very separate than your federal tax. So I want to make sure that we're talking about a lot of different taxes here. There's federal tax, state tax. There's a local tax above that. But in Travis County, and actually, I think in the state of Texas, Julie, all of our local tax gets paid through the Comptroller of Public Accounts when we register with a public. So it's not like you have to go to every single local taxing entity to register. You just register with the Comptroller of Public Accounts, the state of Texas, and they handle everything for you with the various counties as well. Okay.
Right. There is one provision with the appraisal district tax that if you own property as your business, then you need to consider the property tax implications of that for the county that you're in.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you. So federal, state, local, and then there's employment tax. If you're going to have employees, you must register with the Texas Workforce Commission. And there's a tax that's imposed as well. It's an employment tax, which it feeds into unemployment tax, meaning that if someone works for you and you're paying an employment tax for them, that they can then have the benefit of unemployment tax. And Julie, help me. Every entity, every business that has an employee must be in that system, correct?
If they are actual W-2 employees where you are taking out their taxes and their workers' comp or anything like that, their social security, then yes, you have to register with the Workforce Commission. If you only have contractors where you're giving them a 1099 at the end of the year and you're not taking their taxes out of their paycheck, you do not have to register with the Workforce Commission. And Texas is one of the very few states that does not require workers' comp, but I am not an attorney and I'm not giving you advice about whether or not you should have workers' comp.
Thomas, you have a question?
Yeah, so I just kind of want to clarify the last two slides. So if I want to start a business, it has to be either a DBA or LLC. Just one of those two options?
No, there's actually multiple options. There's the sole proprietorship, there's the partnership, general, there's a limited partnership, there's the LLC, there's a corporation, and then also a nonprofit, which wasn't listed. And I mentioned that because I know that I have a lot of participants today that are in the creative arena, that are artists and whatnot. And some individuals may want to start a not-for-profit corporation.
Okay. And a sole proprietorship, is that just pretty much, can you define that? I'm sorry to take up time. I can ask you later if you want.
No. The sole proprietorship is just usually individuals that start as a sole proprietorship. It's one individual that's starting the business, if you will. It's the easiest. I just shouldn't say the easiest. It's the simplest way to set up a legal entity as a business. You just go to Travis County DBA. You pay $26 for 10 years to register your name. It's a Schedule C on the tax return, but it's also the one type of entity that provides you the least amount of coverage. You have more risk because if you get sued, you are the sole proprietor and you get sued directly.
Can you still buy insurance with that though?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Vicki, I want to touch on one other question that came through the chat just to give you a chance to weigh in on it. I did provide a small answer, but I just want to make sure you have a chance to answer to it. If you're going to offer services in more than one city, does your DBA extend across all of Texas? And I said that your DBA is your legal entity in the state of Texas. That's your headquarters, so you can operate anywhere. But if you'd like to expand on that, I wanted to make sure you had a chance.
Actually, great question. And Thomas, thank you for your question, by the way. I'll give you an example. Okay. We all see in our area ATX landscape. Okay. ATX landscape. But you don't know if ATX landscape is registered in Travis County or if they're in Williamson County or then they're in Hayes County. You don't know where they were actually. Just because they have the name ATX landscaping doesn't mean it's the headquarters or the office itself isn't, right? So when you get the DBA, if you get the DBA in Travis County, you will have the name registered in Travis County, but someone else in Hayes County could register the name as ATX Landscaping in Hayes County. The only way to really secure your name throughout the state is through a partnership, through a corporation, or through an LLC. You cannot secure your name as a sole proprietorship just with that entity. You can only secure it for the county. Julie, you want to add to that? That's my understanding of how that works.
My addition is I'm going to read Jennifer's comment, which I think is perfectly stated. There are tax implications to each type of business entity, and you want to look into which one is better for you. We do have some info in the toolkit for you at the end for you to look through, but it's really good to talk to a CPA or an attorney if you're at all concerned, or go to one of the services that we send you a link to so you can make sure that it's right for you.
You so much, because I wasn't trying to give advice. I was just sharing what my knowledge is of it, but you're absolutely right. Seeking a CPA, having an attorney, yes, and also seeking there are some other classes that are offered on specifically about the entities that are taught by attorneys. And if not, there's, Julie, you may want to put Lawyer Referral Service of Central Texas in the toolkit, because they have classes specifically taught by attorneys on entities, and on, I think it's the first Tuesday or second Tuesday of the month, they have a hotline where you can call in as an individual and ask questions more specifically to an attorney about the legal structures, and they can answer it for you. So thank you. Yes. Okay, so licenses and permits. I mentioned a little while ago that in the state of Texas, you do not have to have a license to operate a business. You have to register as a legal entity. However, if you have a certain service that you are providing that requires, like if you're a hairstylist, if you're in cosmetology, you have to be licensed by the state of Texas to provide that service. That's where license and permits come into play. And so to make sure that you're in compliance, that you have the license and permits to operate or to provide a service, the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulations, that's where you would find this information. And then also, if you're going to open an entity or open a business in Austin, and you want to know more about the permits, the permitting and development process, how to navigate through what permits are needed, if you wanted to have a pop-up shop, or if you wanted to have used a sidewalk and have some tables and chairs, or what, to do something like that in Austin, best way, or to open a shop, to ultimately get, I'll spit it out, ultimately get a certificate of occupancy. Okay. Don't need to know what that is, but know that if you're going to open a shop in Austin, a facility, a door open kind of entity, that you are going to have a certificate of occupancy before you can have your first customer walk in there. The city of Austin has a class called Biz Open Commercial Property Requirements. That is also a free class. Please take advantage of that class. And I know Jackie will be sharing with you more at the end of this class information about that. Those are the two. Okay. So now we've talked about the legal stuff, the legal entity, and then the licenses, and about taxes. So in being an entrepreneur, let's step back here for a minute. Your entrepreneurial mindset. What do I mean? You got to have an entrepreneurial mindset. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, let me ask you guys, if you guys are launching your business, or if you have a business already, you're wanting to just rethink about things and just reset the button. And let me ask you this. How do you define your success as a business owner? Are you defining it as an amount that you want to make, or that you want to just, how are you defining your success? And what I'm getting at is the mindset. I call it, and Julie hears me say this all the time. She's going to giggle because she knows where I'm going with this. I have a committee in my head. I've got, the thoughts. As an entrepreneur, we have a lot of thoughts that are always wanting us to take us in one direction and another direction. And my mindset, my committee in my head can sometimes be my biggest cheerleader, but it can also be my biggest headache. Be the one to really, really not be encouraging me as much as it should be. Okay. But I need to step back and say, well, wait a minute. How do I define success? So I have to sit back and think, okay, with my business, with my goats, what were my milestones that I wanted to achieve? Did I want to have so many sales in the first year? Did I want to have so many the next year? But I needed to define the success. What did that look like? So have you guys given some thought as to how you're going to define success with your business? Anybody? Julie, you want to add on that? Because I tell you, when I started my goat business, I didn't. I just like, okay, what am I doing?
I'm not seeing a lot of responses right this second. I'm waiting. If anyone wants to come off mute and answer a question, that'd be lovely. We do want interaction with actual humans.
And if not, let me share the story about Yeti. Okay. If nobody wants to right now, I'm going to share about Yeti. Okay. We all know what Yeti is. Yeti's an Austin company. Austin grown, homegrown, great company. Done really well. Now they're actually a publicly traded company. You can buy stock in Yeti now. But Yeti, when the story of Yeti, these two guys, okay, talk about these guys. They didn't know that the world was going to want a $400 cooler. I mean, those coolers are expensive, are they not? Right? They're really expensive. The two brothers, to begin with, when they started their coolers, they were frustrated because they couldn't find a cooler they could stand on. That's where the company really started. Okay. See one of the brothers standing on the Yeti there? There was not a cooler on the market that you could go fishing or go anywhere and stand on that it was going to hold his weight. And so they started thinking about it. So they really embarked on Yeti. First off, the whole idea that was to design a cooler that they could stand on. Next thing, they did some research. Next thing, they did some design, and it all ended up to where Yeti was today. But you notice that their mindset to begin with was, hey, what if, didn't know where the idea was going to come from, but it came up from, I want one to stand on just because I want to be able to stand on this. And now fast forward, because they started out in starting small, and they first started with a couple of items that they could sell. But now I think Yeti's even selling clothing, Julie, and some other stuff as well. I mean, it's just not the ice coolers or the cups per se. And they've got competition, and they've got others that have taken over some of the market, but they're still doing really, really well.
They've even moved into philanthropy, and they help with fundraising programs and projects. They've expanded quite a bit.
Doing really, but they started out from mindset, and they defined their success first and foremost as, we want a cooler that we can stand on, because there was not one on the market. Okay, there's not.
And they wanted to impress their dad with it.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't.
You made it for their dad, and then they realized it was worth something. I love that.
So mindset, entrepreneurial mindset. We need the ability to confront self-doubt, because we're all going to have self-doubt. I talked about my committee in my head. I know it's mindset, but I can sometimes be my worst enemy. And as an entrepreneur, as you have challenges that you're going to be facing one step after another, just know that you've got to really have that strong mindset, but you do have others that you can reach out to help you. City of Austin has coaches that can help you. Actually, I'm really, really proud of the city, the program that they put together, because they've gone from A to Z with not only providing you the resources, but also having somebody that can actually visit with you. Coaches that are available. And I'll talk more about that at the end of the class. Accountability, you got to hold yourself accountable. You got to be resilient. Many of you guys ever started a day and thought, okay, this is exactly how my day is going to be, and then something else doesn't come up? I can't think I've ever had a day that went exactly as planned. But what did I have to do during the day? I had to be resilient. I had to adapt. I had to be flexible. I had to do all those sort of things. Well, that is part of having a successful, really productive entrepreneurial mindset. You got to be able, and I hate using this word because people have used it so much during the pandemic, pivot. You just got to be able to adapt. Adapt, and willingness to experiment. You guys, willing to experiment with something else? If one doesn't work out, take a different direction? Anybody? I think that's actually, it's kind of like embedded in us in entrepreneurs. We're all entrepreneurs in this class. We all have, I think we have the mindset, but sometimes we just got to be willing to step out of the box. Now, don't step out of the box too much to where you then you deviate and you go into the next shiny penny. No, because we tend to do that. That's another thing that we do. We tend to want to be too much for too many, and we've got to bring it in. remember when we were first starting out the goat business. So my cousin and we had all these things we wanted to do, all these different things, these services, no. Well, and I had to say, hold on here. One at a time. We only have money to do this. We've got to make money. We've got to recoup. We got to bootstrap. We're going to do things one step at a time. A lot of that comes from not only planning, but also make sure that you're embracing your entrepreneurial mindset. So it helps you get through all the highs and lows of your journey, your entrepreneurial journey. But the 4 characteristics of the entrepreneurial mindset are ability to confront self-doubt. We're always going to have it. Okay. And if you ever have any self-doubt, call Jackie. Jackie will get you out of it. Jackie's probably not even putting Jackie on the spot here.
Okay.
It's true though. She's great for it.
She is really good. She could point you in the direction, right, Jackie? Accountability, resilience, and willing to experiment. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you develop your own entrepreneurial mindset? Well, some things here that we're going to discuss are clear goals. You got to make decisions. I actually was talking to another group this morning and asked them, what's the biggest challenge that you have that you see in front of you as being an entrepreneur? And one of them said, making too many decisions. Well, you got to have goals. You got to make decisions. I mean, the only way to really set your milestones to be able to go from one to the next and achieve and celebrate success is to have the goals. Practice being decisive. Redefine failure. You hit a roadblock, something doesn't go as planned. Figure something else out. And we can do that. That's the real, I think that's the highest value that an entrepreneur has within themselves is they do have the ability to redefine failure. It just has to come out. It really has to come out. Face your fears. That to me is the biggest one. Okay. I'm one of those that likes to make decisions within a box and no, I don't want to do that. I will experiment. Don't get me wrong, but I don't experiment a lot. I'm like cautious in how I experiment. Well, with an entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur, you got to face your fears. You got to move right through them. And I know each and every one of you can by setting your goals and always remain curious. What do I mean by remaining curious? Anybody want to comment on that?
Be open to new ideas.
New ideas, always looking at your market, always looking at, your customers recommending. I mean, if customers are recommending something, well, maybe that's something that you should incorporate and bring you more sales. Absolutely. Thank you. Remaining curious. So of all these, of the ones that I've just, talked about in developing your own mindset, maybe put in the chat either 1, 2, 3, or the number 1 through 5. Which one do you think is going to be the most challenging aspect of developing this entrepreneurial mindset that I'm talking about today? You place that in the chat. I'm just kind of curious. Is it number 1? Number 2? Which one is it? I'll tell you, mine's number 4. Mine is definitely number 4, and I work on that every day. Julie, what are we saying? Oh, you're muted, sweetie. You're muted, Julie. Julie, you're muted.
I'm unmuting. I'm sorry. 3 years on Zoom. Still forget to click it. Mine is number 4, but I didn't even realize that until recently. I thought I was on number 1 and number 2, but I'm on number 4 now consciously.
For you, good for you. What are we seeing in the class?
Seeing a balance of a lot of 2s. Some 4s, number 3, Jennifer Hayes does not believe in failure, which I like that because you can't really actually fail at this. You can just keep going.
Is your business. That's exactly right. Way to go.
Yeah, this is great. This is
Good. Okay. Well, I did hear you say, Julie, that some individuals were a little bit saying, okay, I'm going to have to make decisions. I've got to make decisions. I heard number 2 pop up. Did it not?
Yep. And you also, I want to go back and make sure you know that people were telling you about their definition of success and what that looks like to them. And a lot of people were saying profit, obviously, but after that, quality of life or understanding that it's step by step or looking at piece by piece or segmenting their time and their energy between products and services and making sure that they're building community and getting buy-in from their clients or their customer base. Really good answers.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, well, let me ask you this. On the entrepreneurial mindset, I just want to hear from the class today. I know we've talked about the 5 areas here, about goals, being decisive and whatnot. And I'm also hearing about, making decisions between product or service. And there's a lot of decisions to be made. But really, this is your business. We talked about, this is your business. The beauty of having your business is you make your decisions however you want. Now, yes, you want to be profitable, and you will be profitable. But the clearer you are with your goals, the clearer you are with your steps and the research that you have done, the more successful you're going to be. And if you're not real sure, we're not going to talk customers right now. Let's put that aside. But as far as your path and what you're deciding to do, the more clearer you are with that, the better off you are, the better off your customers are going to be able to understand what you're offering. And they're going to find the uniqueness about you that they will buy from you. That's how it works. That's how it works. Okay. Any questions that you have about the entrepreneurial mindset or anything that I've discussed so far today? We have a little bit of time that I can entertain some questions, because then I'm going to move into naming your business. How do you name it? But let me hear some questions. Anybody have any questions so far of what I've covered?
Yeah, I know you mentioned it, but can you just reiterate, as far as tax purposes go, what are where do we have to register for taxes legally?
For taxes?
Yeah.
Okay, Julie, can you take me? Oh, it's me. How do I? Okay, let me go back.
While you find the slide, I'll start speaking to it. The federal government for your federal slides, the state comptroller's office for your state taxes, even though Texas does not have state business taxes unless you're earning scads of money, you still have to register so that you can report that you made under the limit. And then you have to register with the county if you have physical property that you need to pay taxes on, and you need to register with the Workforce Commission if you have employees whose paychecks you are taking taxes out of, because that's where those taxes go.
Okay, so if you're just one person, you do the first 3.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's
okay.
right.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thomas, I will add, there's a lot of tutorials, there's a lot of videos that are on these websites to help you. And then also, if there's also like chat available, like, somebody's on chat on that website to answer questions as well. And they also have, you can actually still pick up the phone and call somebody. You may have to wait a little bit, but you can actually get a live person on the phone to answer questions. And then another entity that I would provide as a resource is Lawyer Referral Service in Central Texas, because Julie, they also help with taxes as well. Okay. And if anybody has any other resources that they want to mention in the chat to help with this, please place that in there, because we know of a lot of them, but we don't know all of them. There's a lot of other ones that are in the area or in the community. And if anybody wants to add some resources that I can provide in the class, I'd really welcome that. So thank you.
I'll mention that someone asked, by the way, if LegalZoom does all of that for you when you file through them. And I'll just say, yes, they do. If you sign up for that service, and they do take payments if it's more than what you want to pay immediately. They take a monthly payment out over time to pay for it.
Questions? Anybody else have any questions on anything I've covered thus far? Julie, were there any? Okay.
I have a question. You mentioned, I think on the previous slide, that your biggest hurdle was facing your fears. I was just curious to see what your thought process or framework was when you have to tackle that yourself.
Oh, okay. Actually, you know what? I had to really identify what the fear was. That was first and foremost. What I mean by that is to identify it. I actually wrote it down, and I sat with my cousin, and my committee in my head is what my worst enemy about. Well, what about this, or what about this, or we don't want to do that. Well, this is and it tends to lean toward it's going to fail before it is going to be good. Okay. We do that. We just do that as humans. But what I did was when I identified, really wrote it down, I had to take it out of my head, put it on paper. There's a magic that happens when you take things out of your head and you put them on paper and really write down what it was. I was able to divide it and conquer it. I don't know what other words to use, but that was the way that I was able to figure out what am I going to be able to do to reduce the risk, to therefore reduce my fear of being able to achieve it or move through it. But I had to write it down, Guy. I had to write it down. And that was a challenge just in myself to try to figure that out specifically.
Yep. Yep. And I'll add for mine, I also had to figure out or realize that I had fear. And I did write it down because I'm a write it down person. But to get through it, to realize, oh, this is a fear. I am a worst case scenario thinker. So I had to go all the way to worst case scenario and work my way back to, of course, I can handle whatever happens. You have to get there and find other people that have already solved those problems or who are already doing it, that you can look to them and say, they can do it, I can do it, because you can absolutely do it. You absolutely can.
Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Okay. And then another thing I would mention, Evelyn, is getting a mentor. Somebody who may have a business similar to what you're wanting to get into that has maybe, done this before. And if you're thinking, well, wait a minute, why would they want to work with me as a competitor, looking at me as a competitor? Well, you may not be a competitor. It may be that they have so many customers that they may want to work with you because you can take some of the overload that they have, right now. And, but there's a lot of people, you'd be surprised. The local small businesses in Austin are always there to help mentor and answer questions. So, I would suggest that for you. Julie, you want to add on that? Because I know I've had much success with asking people, who do you know? What do you know? Even people that I'm in the same business with.
Yeah. I do the same thing. And I will point out the city has one-on-one coaching. I just put this in the chat. And it's unlimited and it's free, where you can sit with a coach and they'll walk you through paperwork. They'll help you figure out permitting. They'll help you figure out what are my fears, what am I figuring out, all those different questions, the tax implications, all of it. So the city does that. There's an organization called SCORE that does that. And there are various community lenders as well who will provide mentoring and coaching. And we'll put them they're all in the toolkit for you. So you can go and find literally free one-on-one help with all of these questions specific to your business.
Mentor, find a mentor. Yeah, that's a great thing. Good questions. Okay, got a couple minutes for a couple more questions. If not, I'm going to move into name your business. So what's the last, anybody have any last questions?
I just got the question they want a real contact. I'm going to give them Danny's email address at the city.
Okay, good. Hey, well, I'm going to move on to the next section. We'll talk for a little bit longer and then we're going to take a break, but I at least want to introduce this to begin with, and that is naming your business. So tell me, do you have just a yes or no in the chat, or if anybody wants to unmute and talk about this, do you have a name for your business already? I'm thinking that you do. And so I'm going to give you an example of how I went about considering my name for my business, okay? The Go business is named Chivera. It's Chivera, Chivera, okay? Chivera. And so how did we come up with that name? How did I come up with the name Chivera? Well, Chivera in Spanish means a woman who owns goats. That's what it means, Chivera, right? I'm able to use it in a lot of different places, and I think it's a good name. It's a good name for my company, and we use it, like I said, in various different places. But careful in your name, how you come up with your name. Chivera, woman who owns goats, Chivera. But Chivera in Spanish, in some Spanish-speaking countries, has a different meaning. Chivera also means a woman who is hooked on heroin, and so I have to be very careful where I use my name of my business. Now, fortunately, the industry that I'm in with my goats, I'm with a bunch of ranchers, okay? Bunch of ranchers. We go to livestock shows and whatnot. So yes, there are Spanish speaking individuals there. They're not exactly Spanish speaking individuals that are in the drug scene, right? They're just not. It's a different kind of audience. So I'm okay in using that name, but where I run into an issue, and you guys are probably going to giggle about this, I have that on my license plate of one of my vehicles. Okay. The name of the business. And there's sometimes in some areas of Texas that I will go try to, put fuel in my vehicle, that people will look at me and I can tell they're looking at the license plate and they're thinking, okay, why does this older woman have a woman who is hooked on heroin license plate on her vehicle? And so, you got to think about it. You got to look at different languages. What else does it mean in different regions? You just got to be careful with your name. And then the other thing about name is some of you may want to use your own individual personal name. You can. You can, if you will. Attorneys do it all the time. CPAs do it all the time, right? Doctors do it all the time. But just know that in the world today, if you do use your name, it's easy for people to find out everything about you, more so now than ever before. So I'm not trying to discourage you from not using your name. It's just that, just be aware of how much information people can find out about you now that they could not in previous years. Julie, what do you think about what I said?
I think it's great. I think it's really important to look at the accidental acronym that a name you choose might create as well. You never know what you're accidentally spelling out for people when they shorten it. The Dallas Museum of Art's website domain name ends up spell out Dallas Museum of Art, and it ends up saying Dallas Museum O, and it's not a great look, and they had to go through a whole thing with it. So you have to consider that. And you have to consider, does it mean something else to another industry, which you don't realize? So show it to a lot of people before you really choose it. Very important.
So with that, I have right at about 2:00. Julie, I think we're at the same thing? What I'm going to do is right at about 2:00.
Yes.
Let's take an 8-minute break. We'll be back at about, let's come back at 2:08. And we'll pick this up. But during the break, I'd like for you to just, please, if you want to, share with us the name of your business, maybe share of how you came up with your name, or if you're thinking about changing your name. I do want to have a little bit of discussion about name. You've heard my story and what I've done, and Julie shared with you about the acronym. Julie, thank you so much. Take a look at your name during the break, and then let's come back and let's have a little bit of discussion about that. Okay. So with that, I'll see you guys back at about 2:08. Julie, we good?
We're good. Thank you, Vicki.
Just a gentle reminder for those who came after my introduction. If you can change your name, your screen name, to the name you're registered under, just so I can make sure that you get credit for the class, so I can check you in. And a friend, I'm glad
Recording stopped.
And a friend, I'm glad you made it in. Good to see you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and just a little reminder, you guys don't be shy. I know it's a lot of you guys in there. And if a question is asked, don't be shy. We're all family. We're all family. This is a judgment-free zone. So, knock yourself out. I know you guys are just being shy, and it is a Monday.
Julie, you there?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not ready to get back. Just wanted to see if anybody had placed in their chat the name or if anybody had questions on how to, what names they're considering.
I do have a couple I'll throw out at you and let you react. Rachel Bachheim, I hope I'm saying that last name right, said she works for a company called FKA Merch, and they went through about between 5 and 8 names that they loved before landing on that. And they ended up there because they all worked for a UK company. And before that, they created an Austin office. I should probably be letting her tell you this. Rachel, are you back on the call? Do you want to talk about the naming that you went through?
Oh, sure. Well, we had about 5 managers involved. We all used to work together for a UK company that started an Austin office, and they pulled out of the US location due to trouble with their UK company. So it was a big surprise to all of us and kind of closed without warning. So on a very shortened time frame, the 5 US kind of main US management team scrambled and found investors to restart the business in Austin, but we had to come up with an entirely new business. And so we had multiple people involved in the naming, which made it more challenging, obviously, than it was just one person, right?
Always.
But we finally, by the time we could get through the hundreds of options between the 5 of us, we had 5 to 8 that we all finally really liked. And there was very few that were available with, even like the domain names that you wanted or social media handles that you wanted. So even between that and then considering everything else, there was a lot of heartbreak in there for some of the lack of availability on some of those. So I was just saying, like, don't fall in love with anything too before you check to make sure you have what you need, from that name as well.
Isn't that hard to not fall in love with your name?
Yeah.
Hard. Vicki, we've also got Magical Disco Party Company. Love that one.
Wow.
Native Scenery Landscapes. Great name. Your co-host, YCH, is a short-term rental property management. Love these. Is it Nativo? Paula, am I saying it right?
Yes, Nativo.
Nativo for sustainable
Yes.
handmade products. Oh, we've
Yes.
talked to you before.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are great.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you guys have you've at least started that journey and already have decided on a name. This is great. Rachel brought up something interesting. Rachel, thank you for sharing your story, because you did bring up something that I need to point out, is if there's a lot of people involved, yes, it becomes more challenging. Because some people will fall in love with one versus another. And, it's just a group dynamic, just trying to agree on everything when you've got a group. And so I'm glad you guys got through it, but I can only imagine how challenging that was. And then falling in love with whatever name you are, and then going to find the domain name. If you guys are going to have a website and you fall in love with your name and your domain name is taken, then what do you do? So make sure that whatever business name that you have or acronym or whatever you want to do, that you go check that domain name as well. Okay. Now, can you add the in front of it? Can you modify it a little bit? Absolutely, you can. But if you really have one that you're stuck on that you really want, before you finalize and go do all the marketing stuff and get a lot of stuff established, you got to look at your domain name, give me some of the other things that you should consider, Julie, before you finalize your name.
Finding a Twitter handle that works. A lot of the naming of domains and your social media doesn't have to be exact anymore. Everyone sort of accepts that sometimes you're a .net or a .biz, something like that. But the most important thing is to make sure that whoever has the actual name you first wanted is not a direct competitor and or isn't something that is offensive or completely outside the realm of what you do, so that it's not, you don't want someone accidentally finding a gentleman's club when they're looking for a kid's birthday party. I don't know what the name would be of that, but you know what I mean.
It's extreme, yes.
I do want to also point out, when you're naming your business and you're registering your name, it's an email and phone call to the Secretary of State. It is not just Googling it to see if it's available, and they do not have an online form to do that. If you go through a LegalZoom or one of those services, they will search the availability for you. But if you're searching it yourself for an official organization with the Secretary of State, it is a phone call or an email, and then they get back with you to help you figure out if the name is available.
That is very important. I'm going to have Julie say it again, because that is with the Secretary of State, where businesses, they file for the name to be used in the state.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, you can't Google it. It's by an email or a phone call to find out if that name is being used already with the registered in the state of Texas. Very, very important. Okay.
And I've got the email and the phone number for that in the toolkit. It's already there.
Good. But congratulations to those of you that have a name already. And to those of you that do not, where are you in the process? Still thinking about it, considering it, have an idea? Just want to have a sense of where you are.
Alex says that he had to settle on the domain name your co-hosts instead of your C-host, and it's driving them insane. So let's talk through that maybe.
Yeah, I wanted it to be your co-host, just not plural because that's the name of the business, but it's taken. So I was like considering changing the business name to match the domain, but I don't like it plural as much. So that kind of threw a wrench in it, because then I went into this like spiral of like, do I need a different name or both of them match? Like, does the S really make that much of a difference? So I guess we'll see.
Well, yeah, you will know. You will know if it does, because if people are saying I went to the wrong site, you'll know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
not a reason to stop your forward motion.
Yeah, and they give you the option to like buy. I know they have like that brokerage option on GoDaddy. So I'm like, maybe one day I'll buy it. We'll see.
I don't want to speak for everyone, but I've tried that twice and I never get anywhere with it. That doesn't mean that it doesn't work. But
Julie, I haven't either.
I've had bad
Well,
luck.
good to know, so I don't spend the money.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best, Alex, on it, and thank you so much for commenting, because your name, it's a big deal to find a name that actually works, and then trying to tie it to all the different avenues that we use for social media these days. You know, that kind of it's another complexity that's added to the naming of your business. And so I just wanted to bring it up. And so thank you guys for sharing your stories, because there's a lot more to consider than just coming up with a name that you love.
Vicki, we have one comment in the chat from Jessica that just says, I have an idea with a light bulb. And I don't know if she's telling me that's her name or if she actually has an idea for naming. Jessica, you want to come off mute and tell us what it means? She might not be able to. I also like a comment from Liz in the chat that says, consider how lazy people are and consider buying multiple domains that will all end up at your same site.
Oh,
when they're looking and they're lazy, they may not realize.
Good idea. Okay, good discussion. Well, before I go into, I'm going to go next into the business model. And thank you for all those that commented, not only in the chat, but also unmuted, and we had the discussion. But are there any other last questions on naming your business? Questions or comments? What questions do you have?
We do have a question about the toolkit. It will be a link provided at the end of class, so you'll be able to access it, download all the materials, or always access the link. And there are AI business name generators, and we have some of them in the toolkit already.
You know what? That's very important, the AI generators. Thank you for asking about that. You know, artificial intelligence is all around us these days, and, we just got to make sure that we use some of the resources that are available to us. Isn't it, Julie? I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
You can be honest and tell them that it creeps you out. You can say
it does creep me out. It does.
That's just real. You can be real.
Yeah, it creeps me out. Okay, next thing let's talk about is a business model. Well, what is a business model? Do I need a business model? Yes. Do you have a business model? Actually, all of you guys probably, if you have an idea already and you know the product or service that you're selling, you already have somewhat of a business model formulated. But I think it's important to discuss the types of business models that are out there, and you're going to have to choose which one you're going to, as you go forward in your path and your journey with your business, which one you're going to embark on. So what am I talking about when I say business model? Well, it's your strategy to deliver the value, whatever you're going to be offering to your customers, clarifies your goods or service that you will offer, explains what markets you're planning to target. Who's your target audience? Who's your customer, right? Specifically defining your customer, and defines all anticipated costs to manage the business. Not only do you need to know the goods and services that you're going to sell, products or services, you only need to know to who. And you also need, how much is this going to cost me? Because then I can set my prices to make some money. Because to be real, we're all in this to make money. We're not entrepreneurs. Yes, we want to do social good, and we're going to have partners, and we're going to do some great things, but we're making money, are we not? Yes, we are making money. So the next thing to look at is I wanted to talk to you about different types of business models, business plans. And these are documents, okay? These are documents that help develop what we were just talking about, on paper. There's a magic that happens. I started this class today. I'm talking about committee in the head, mindset. We all have the thoughts that are there where, we wanted to be everything to everybody, and we just can't. To be successful, we have to divide and conquer. Well, a magic happens when you take a lot of the thoughts that you have up here and put them on paper. That's developing your business model, okay? When you can actually take it and specifically write down. There's two trains of thought when it comes to, I shouldn't say rules, trains of thought as far as types of models or types of documents to create to develop your model. One is the traditional one called a business plan. You guys have all heard of a business plan. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, that you need to have a business plan. It's a traditional one. That's a traditional way to develop your business model. More common, very detailed, has a very hard, standard structure, often requested by lenders and investors. Actually, it's not often. It's more often than not requested from lenders and investors. If you're going to anybody for money, they're going to want to see a traditional business plan. It's just the way it is, okay? Can take a long time to put together. City does have a class that's called How to Write a Business Plan that you will actually use. In that class, I encourage you, if you want to take the next step to further develop your business model and you want to develop it via the vehicle of a business plan, to take that class. In that class, we actually take, and I say that because I teach the class, and one of the instructors for the class, we actually take some time and you will walk away from some sections of your business plan created for you. You will take time to write, and I will help navigate you through that. But in the course, you actually will walk away with paragraphs already and resources to help you create your business plans and next steps. Okay. The other item to help you develop your plan or your model is called a business model canvas. It's less common. It's shorter. It's one page. And my next slide is going to show you what one looks like, because I'm going to talk a little bit more about the business plan and about the business model canvas. But it's a shorter one. It's a one page. It's actually a diagram where you identify various key aspects to your business, very different than the traditional business plan, but also used to be able to explain and to be able to define what your model is. It's focused on quick view of key information, not details, and it's much quicker to write. It's not long, it's one page, okay? So I just want to make sure that you're aware that there's two various different types. There's a business plan, more traditional. If you're going to go to get some money, you're going to borrow anything, you got to have one of those. There's also the business model canvas that helps you formulate your ideas and identify the key areas that you need to be successful with your model. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the business plan. The business plan is a blueprint for your business. It helps clarify ideas, and this is key for individuals that are not only starting their business, but those of you guys that are already in business. You may have a business plan, but go get that business plan back out and go read it again. Business plan was never intended to just be created once and to sit on a shelf. It is a living document that needs to live with the journey that your business goes through, because then you tweak it. Remember we talked about earlier about the mindset about being flexible and then modifying in a certain way. And I remember I used the word pivot that I didn't like to use. Sometimes we have to do that and we have to experiment. Well, you want that to also be translated. You also want that. Wait. Well, I'm sorry. You also want to make sure that that's translated and documented in your business plan. Okay. So you clarify your ideas, communicate your vision, and your vision may change. I know my vision with my business from where we started years ago to where we are today is very different. I mean, our vision is a lot different, but why? Pandemic, environment has changed. A lot of things around us in the business world have changed. We've incorporated new technologies in the business, and I'm not saying we're really high tech. We're in business for, but we have incorporated some new tools that we didn't even know were in existence back in 2008. Okay. So also helps if you're going to secure funding, identify how much do you need. Now, aside from the business plan class, the city also has a class on how much do you need? How much funding do you need? And that's another class that I suggest you take, is I will help add to your business plan and creating that. The business plan includes the structure of your business. We talked about the legal structure earlier today. The story of your business. You have each and every one of you can have a wonderful story about your business and the plan for the future of your business. So that's the business plan. Okay. But the components of it are very traditional: company description, market analysis. I know you guys have probably have seen this before, but that's what a business plan traditionally looks like. And lenders and investors will want to see that before they're going to even entertain any kind of conversation with you. Okay. And when they say they're going to want to see it, they need to see it in document form on paper. Okay. Notice at the very bottom, I have funding requests and financial projections and appendix. One part of the class, how to write a business plan, is this first part. And then these last parts are part of the funding class. Okay. That's offered by the city. Next one I want to share with you is this is a picture of, it's a pager. Canvas model, the business model canvas that I was referring to. One page. And Julie, I don't know, do we have this in the toolkit? Do we have this one page as well in the toolkit?
We have the one pager for business, and I was just going to add the one for nonprofit just in case anyone needs it, because it's a little bit different.
Okay. If you're still trying to formulate your business idea and the business plan is a little bit too structured for you, too many questions to answer right now, start with the business canvas model. Start with that. The business model canvas. It's the canvas model, but I always call it the business model canvas. Julie, I don't know which is the correct one or not, but it's business model canvas, right? It's just a canvas of all the aspects of your business in one page, taking a higher look from top down of your business versus the detailed look of the business plan. You identify the key partners, key resources. The value proposition is what you're bringing to the table to your customers. Okay. How you're going to deliver it, who your customer segments are, who your customers are. A lot of the same things that go into the business plan, but here it's a one page, just doing the high level decisions to start your business. You may want to start there, and you can go from this model then to a business plan, if you will. But if some of you already have some of those details established, go straight for the business plan. Go straight for the business plan. Or if you already have a business plan, go get it, dust it off, and just revisit some of the things that you thought you wanted to do with your business, because things have changed. Things have changed. So at this point, I just wanted in this class to share with you that you need to develop your business model. Okay. There's two things that can help you: the business plan and the business model canvas. Okay. It's going to take some work, but there's some other resources, some other classes that the city offers and others in the community that can help you to develop that. Okay. Before I go into the products that you're selling, what questions do you have about the business plan or about the business model canvas, or just thoughts that you want to share? Or has anybody in this class already gone through that process of establishing either one of these for your, in defining your business model?
Vicki, I'm going to let you know, one person put into the chat, John did, that when you were on the slide that showed the sections of the business plan, that didn't necessarily make sense for him, because those are very general, bullet points that don't really tell him what each one is. So just a quick run through of what those mean might be helpful.
Okay. The point I was trying to make with the slide is these are the components. They're standard components that you find in every one of the business plans. Okay. When you look at business plans, either online or when you meet with a lender, I don't care if it's lender A versus lender Z, they're all going to be looking for these same components. Structure. This is meant no more than to give you just an idea of what the outline table of contents is going to look like for a business plan. Okay. Just like with the business model canvas, it had the various key areas that you were defining. You do the same thing in a business plan, but these are the areas that they're going to want you to define: company description, a market analysis, organization and management. Now, this isn't the class. This isn't the business plan class where I can go into a lot of detail about what goes into defining those areas. But the point I was trying to make was primarily that these are the areas you're going to have to develop in your business plan. And these are the categories that lenders typically want to see defined. Did that help?
He seems happy that there's a template, so it's good. We're good.
Oh, okay. Did I go into too much? Sorry about that. Other questions about the business plan or the business model canvas before I move forward?
I'm going to add that Jennifer put into the comments that she uses a tool called Live Plan, which is a business plan generator that also lets her update as she's going so that she can stay flexible. And I will add a link to that because it is a great tool. I don't have it in the toolkit yet, but I'll add it.
Okay. So the point that this was on, that I was making in this part of the class today was just about what is your business model, and giving you some resources and just some ideas and thoughts, what's accepted in the industry, the business industry, what people like to see, what they're expecting to see, if you will, and also to give you some ideas on how to formulate your business model. Okay. Good job. Good job. Okay. Okay, so the next year we're getting into is, what are you selling? We're all business owners. Okay, guys, what are we selling? I told you with my goats, I sold my goats, right? Do I just sell goats or do I sell services as well? Well, I actually sell services as well. But I make my money primarily on selling the products. Okay. Now, do I have a lot of products and a lot of services that I offer? No. Do I offer some services? So I'm offering products and services, right? I'm offering both. But let me talk to you a little bit about when you define what you're selling. If you're starting out, I'm going to give you these words. Keep it simple. You don't want to offer too many products or services where you're spread so thin that you can't be successful at selling them at the level that the customer is expecting to receive them. Okay. Meaning you're going to be scattered. And so I hope I'm explaining this well enough, because I know that when my cousin and I first sat down and we write everything, the flip charts, we write everything. Or we had a board that we were working on, where dry erase board, and we erased this and did that and with that, because it helped take what was up here to actually define it. But when we were talking about the products, he wanted to sell this and that and this and that and this and that. And I said, wait a minute, how are we going to source it to begin with? Are we going to be able to source it? It's just you and I. And look, I'm working still full time. I mean, the reality, you got to get back to the reality of what you're able to offer versus what you think you can offer. Okay. Because you want to be successful. Am I making sense to you guys? I mean, sometimes we want to do everything for everybody. So with the products that we decided to begin with, we kept it simple. Male goats, female goats. Well, that's only two choices, right? Then we went to full blood and percentage blood. So that meant male, female, full blood, and percentage blood. And then we set a price. And then we did research on the bloodline that we wanted to start the herd from. And so then we were able to boast about what were the unique aspects of the goats that we were offering to demand the higher price. Because my goats ain't just goats, okay? My goats are nice goats. I mean, they're expensive goats. Because I said, if we're going to be breeders, I want to make sure that quality of the product we're offering is at a different level than some of the other breeders in the state. Okay? So I had to think about all that. But when it came to offering the first product that we were offering, the first service that we were offering, product specifically because we're in goats, we needed to keep it simple and we needed a real defined as to what we were selling. Okay? So I want you guys to give it some thought and place in the chat, or if somebody wants to unmute and tell me how many products, well, actually, no, let me ask a different way. Tell me maybe one or two products that you're selling. And are you very clear as to be able to how you can source them? And I mean, are you clear? If you're creating it, fine, but I'm just looking for just a conversation about how you came about defining your product. And if you're doing 10 of them, fine, but I just want to hear one or two. Does that make sense to that? Julie, do you want to help me with that?
I do want to help you with that. So the first response is from Flora. And she says, the Flora C Connection is a full range of entry luxury clothing, shoes, jewelry, handbags, and fashion accessories beautifully dreamt, conceptualized, and designed in a home studio based in sunny Austin, Texas. So it sounds like she has a collection, but it all fits into that one collection. She's not then suddenly going off into a different line or different types of materials. So she's got her set of products.
Wonderful. Okay. Okay, good. Good.
I think I probably confused everyone because I put a bad link in, so I had to correct that. So ignore that.
It's okay. We're real. Things happen.
Anyone else want to tell us about your products, your services? A lot of you have both products and services. How are you determining how big to reach? With a new business, it's hard to reach far. And I don't mean customer reach. I mean in what you can accomplish as a lean team.
I do lawn service and landscaping, and I would say my basic two services are going to be reoccurring lawn service and reoccurring maintenance, which would be everything but the lawn service. So leaf cleanup, shrub trimming, weed removal. So that's, if I have to think about it, I would say it's those two main services that I provide.
Okay, and you're doing them as almost a subscription because it's a recurring. You've set up is a monthly or every 2 weeks kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do this season. For the last 4 years, I've been just basically experimenting, seeing what works best. And I think that this season, doing them in a package deal as a monthly package, either A or B, and then just kind of bill it as a subscription, I think it'll make things a little bit smoother. Because if I'm talking to a client and they want services A, B, C, and D, but it switches depending on the season, it kind of just overcomplicates things. Yes. If I can just do a package and it's already know what to do in my mind throughout the seasons, I don't have to keep bugging them to see if they want service A, B, C, or D. I can just already do what is on the, service agreement.
Love that.
So much. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for bringing this up, because I had not pointed out that as a small business owner, yes, you want your customers, but you want your repeat customers, and it's smoother for you to have those repeat customers. And there's any way you can design in either the products you're selling or the services to design a repeat customer kind of a package deal, if you will, that's music to your ears when it comes to, generating sales. It really is, because if not, finding the extra customer here and there, it's a lot of work. That's a lot of marketing, a lot of hit and miss. You mentioned earlier that I think you went banging on doors, or is that what I heard, that you had to do a lot of searching for the new customers? But now you're having those that are repeat, and that's been a lot smoother for you.
Yeah, that's correct.
Vicki?
Sorry. I was just going to say that was correct. In the past, it almost felt like I had to reacquire the clients every 6 months just because the seasons changed and our services changed. And that was just such a headache.
I just wanted to let you know, Jamila has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Hi.
Hey there.
Yeah, so I honestly started doing the same thing as Flora with my products. I have a collection, and it allows me to kind of focus on 3 products that I could just kind of perfect. One second, can't hear me. But yeah, it was like 3 products that I could perfect within my collection. So that actually helped me with honing in on what it was I was selling.
Julie, you want to help me with it? I had trouble hearing her. I'm so sorry.
She's pretty soft spoken, or the sound was down a little bit. I'm going to say it again, Jamila, and then if I say it wrong, you tell me, okay? She chose to focus on 3 products because it was something she could sort of wrap her head around and manage, and then she can grow from there. Is that a fair retelling of your tale?
That's fair.
Okay.
Absolutely. Actually, that's brilliant. That's a best way to approach it, is start with, when I said keep it simple, is just really define what your first ones are and, work with your customers, because your customers are always going to ask you, let me ask those of you that are in business, if you sold one product, I know when I sell my goat, oh, well, can you do this? Or can you provide this? Or can you provide this? They're going to ask you always for some other things, which is great. But to really define your first three, I think that's a great idea, and you will have much success with that. Julie, you want to add to that? Thank you for commenting.
The only thing I want to add to it is when you're deciding how many to hit the market with at the beginning. Now, if you're a brick and mortar, like a coffee shop, and you need a whole counter of different options, that's one thing. But if you're coming to the market with a set of products or services and you're not standing in a store, then it's really important to remember one basic tenet of all marketing, and that is fewer decisions equals more decision making and more action. So if you give me 20 things to consider, I'm going to take my time, money, and energy to consider all the options instead of making a decision to act and buy. So if you give me fewer decisions, I'm more likely to take action and actually hand you my money. So just as a standard sales game, that's an important thing to know.
That is priceless to take away from this class. Thank you, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? But yeah, I'm going to leave it. Keep it simple. Okay, keep it simple. Any other questions, Julie?
We do have Paula, or actually Nature Nunez added that they're doing insurance and they're offering financial education for young adults. It's really for anyone, but they're really focused on young adults, and they're adding wealth classes. So they're really talking about building up or providing coaching as well as the actual products that they sell, and then expanding into like credit repair and things like that. So that's a really good one. And Paula arrived in Austin after relocating with her family from Colombia, South America. And she focuses on products that inspire her and make her miss her home country. So I think that that's really good to put your personal, if it's something you're passionate about, you're more likely to be able to sell it, because you can't fake passion. And when you're able to sell it, it's because it means something to you, or at least
something to you.
Not always.
It shows. Think about the items, the products and services you buy. It shows in the individual that's selling those, whether they're really passionate and they're really into the business that they have. It shows. And people and customers buy into that. They do. Good job. Okay, I'm going to move on to defining your customer. So talk about the customers. We've talked about the products and the services, talked about the model, talk about structure. We did all that already. We've covered quite a bit today. Who are your customers? How do you find them? How do you find their purchasing patterns and behavior? Have you guys really sat down and thought about, these are decisions you have to decide on. Who are they? Where are they? You kind of decided already what you're going to offer to them. So good job on the products and the service. We had that discussion already. How do your offerings help them solve a problem? And what problems does your offering resolve or address? Think about us when we buy something. We as individuals, do we buy, and y'all be honest, do we buy based on need first or want? Think about it. I know I want to buy everything, but
depends on what it is.
Depends on what. But really, Julie, do we buy based on need first or want?
Want.
Thank you, Jackie. Want. It really is. We should be, but when we get in a bind, what do we buy? The need, do we not? Like if we get in a crisis or whatever, it's the need. It's just things to consider. Customers that you're identifying, are they buying from you based on need or based on want? Because if it's based on want, which we all heard today, Julie, I don't know what you're seeing in the chat, but we tend to want to buy versus based on need, but on want. But when it's on want, there's a lot of choices in want. A lot of choices. And everybody who has a product or service has to have a unique aspect to make the customer want to connect and then buy from them if it's a want versus a need. Okay. So in looking at your customers, the more specific you can get on defining them. Where are they? How do they buy? What do they buy? Are they even interested in what I'm buying? How can I reach them in social media? Where are they? Not everybody's on the same social media platforms, and I don't want to get into marketing yet, but everybody's not on the same social media platform. But who are your customers? What do they look like? You know, I sell goats, right? I sell goats. Well, am I really going to be looking to market my goats in an urban setting, you know, where most of the schools in Austin don't even have 4-H or FFA clubs, you know, or even have the aspect of agriculture science in their schools? Would I want to do that? No, that's not where my customer is. So to help you find some of your customers, there's some databases and some research that you can use, but you need to spend some time on defining your customers. So Julie, I'm going to ask you to chime in on this, but then I'm going to ask the class, have you identified if you're going to tell me yes, what process did you use to finally define who your customer is?
The only thing I'm going to chime here is that if you find yourself saying everyone is my customer or potentially my customer, then you need to dig on this part, because everyone is not your best customer. And if you can replicate your best customers, you can get a lot more revenue with a lot less work. So it's really important to find where your niche is, whether it's geographical or industry based, like Vicky's. Not everybody needs a goat. But at the same time, you may be a retailer and it's really just your locals, but you may be missing a huge piece of wholesale opportunity. There are a lot of things that you need to think about in terms of defining who your best customers are. And it's really about where your highest margins are and the most consistent customers. And we have some tools in the toolkit to help you figure out who those customers are and create something called a customer persona so that you can replicate your best customers out into the marketplace.
Very important aspect of your business is to define your customer. And those of you that are in business already, you may already have your customers. And if you're comfortable with where your customers are or defining what your market segment is right now, maybe this is a time that you start looking, okay, maybe there's another market that I should consider if you want to expand your business. Okay, so this is not only a conversation for those that we should have that we're starting our business, but if we're in business, also talk about, okay, I've got my customers. Who are the other customers I want to seek out? Are there any other customers that I really should have for my business or could have for my business? Okay, and that's how businesses grow. That's how businesses grow. I don't have an example of a business that I can really put my finger on that has done that, but that's how businesses grow. Julia, you want to help me with this?
I have several examples. It's important for my own business, my distance learning media business. We were creating classes for individuals to deliver for their small businesses, and that was great and meaningful, and I loved it. But then we realized that we should be creating curriculum for larger systems like colleges, universities. And once we were able to break into those larger systems, it's the same amount of work for a lot more money. And once you experience that, you no longer want to go back to this more work, less money people. You can love them and refer to them to someone else.
That's so true. That's so true. So did you see anywhere in the chat, or did anybody want to comment about how they came to arrive to define their customer?
No, in fact, Flora did customer discovery interviews. She conducted over 50 plus interviews at fashion pop-ups and events to determine their shopping preferences and expectations for ethically made contemporary fashion. So she actually talked to the customer. Go figure, talking to people.
Well, talk to people. Okay. One thing that we haven't even talked about today, and I really don't get into it in this class, but you may want to have a focus group. Go interview people, see what they think. If they're not your customer, ask them, hey, what would it take for you to be a customer? Would you even buy this product or service? Would you ask just some questions? That's a great idea. Congratulations on doing that. That's a great idea. Julie, I didn't do that. I should have, but I didn't. Anybody else place anything in the chat or want to share on how to define your customer?
So Alex says that she's mirrored her business off the needs of her parents, who are her target market, people who have STRs as an additional business versus first-time STR. Don't kill me. I can't think of what STR is right this second. Alex, help me. What does that
Short-term
mean?
rentals. So
Thank you.
I realized that with
Okay.
most Airbnb owners, the people who are going into it like within the first 2 years want to do everything by themselves because they're looking to make money. But people who are in the second, third year have that as an additional source of income are the people who actually want and need the help. And that's what my parents are. So I get on a phone call with my mom like once a week and I'm like, all right, what went wrong this week and how do I incorporate that into my services?
I love that. Love it.
Great idea. Great idea. Good idea.
Let's see.
Okay.
John says his clients are all in his extended friend group, but more abstractly, he wants his business in home remodels to expand into the trans community and its allies. So that's putting your passion to work. That's putting your heart, your soul into your business. I love it. I love it.
Suggestion there, if you want to expand your reach, there's organizations, networking. I'm going to talk about partnering and networking here in a minute. Joining chambers of commerce, organizations within the community so that the more people that know the services that you provide and what your passion is for a certain area of the community that you want to provide the services to, connect with them. Connect with them. And that's how they're going to get to know you as well. Great idea. Okay. So next thing I'm going to cover is, excuse me, just for a minute. I need to clear my throat.
I'll just point out that there's already a lot of allies in the chat. So that's
good. Oh, good. And networking. Always.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, you're always looking for the next connection. Always.
Right.
So the other thing to consider is what special resources do you have? What do you have that's going to make a real key difference to not only for you to succeed, but your customer? What tools, do you have that are special? What is your special sauce? What I mean by that is, there's coffee shops all over the city, right? Coffee shop is a coffee shop is a coffee shop is a coffee shop. But are all coffee shops the same? No. Everyone has a different personality. Everyone may offer different one. And we all have, well, I don't drink coffee, but I do have one of my favorite coffee shops for a different reason. But I know I don't drink coffee, but I do have a favorite coffee shop. And I'll tell you what it is. And I'm not telling you this because I'm supporting it, but think about this in your own business. Y'all have heard of there's many coffee shops in town, and I'm talking mom and pops, but y'all familiar with, is it Summer Moon? Is that what it's called? I think the name of the coffee shop. What makes Summer Moon so special? What do they offer that nobody else in town, maybe somebody else in town does, but what do they offer in town that other coffee shops don't have?
People are answering moon milk.
And we know about moon milk, okay? And what is moon milk? It is their signature, help me, what's it called? Creamer that you add to the coffee? Milk that you add to the coffee? But it's developed by that small company. It's their special sauce. And notice Julie, how many people in the chat said moon milk?
2 people said it, but out of, not that many are chatting right now. So that's pretty good. Oh,
okay.
And now they have moon milk candles, apparently.
They do have moon. See, you start with one and customers start asking for another. So I just wanted to point out that as you're looking at your product or service, working with your customer, you have a special sauce. And I don't mean sauce like literally sauce, but moon milk, Summer Moon, that is their special, unique item, if you will. And whether you're in landscaping or whatever business you are, even this with the goats, the one thing with the goats, I got to tell you what my special sauce is. It's not my goats. What's the one thing that we offer that our customers really, really like is the fact that they can put a deposit down. Like say for spring, like right now, I have a lot of breeders that have put down a deposit and are going to pay over 4 months, because it's 4 months of pregnancy for the animal, for the baby to be born, for the goat to be born, the kid to be born. And so they place a deposit instead of having to pay it all at once. They love the fact that they can put a deposit down. It's a guarantee, and if something goes wrong, that they can get another animal, but they can pay over time. That's not a huge thing, but no other breeders in the state offer that. And
Sorry
they
to
love
interrupt.
the fact that, go ahead.
Jan has a question. Jan has her
Go
hand
ahead, Jan. I'm so sorry. I keep going on and on.
Hi. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. My question is, it was actually from the previous one. I tried to write it in, but I didn't know how exactly express my question, so I rather speak. In my business, is a mix that usually in people's mind doesn't mix. Is wellness plus like mystical things, like even tarot reading. I use as a resource for wellness also. And I have trouble finding my niche, even though I do have people that naturally come to me because of those things mixed. To be able to reach out to more people is kind of complicated, because usually when people know about, depends on the people, of course, but some people think tarot as not something like important, might not see that wellness, like the might not think that wellness is like
Connection between the
professionally
two.
also.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
No, the
And I have
connection between the two.
exactly, and for me, they're both like important in what I offer. I have a bachelor in nursing, so it's not like I'm just making up the wellness part. So I have experience in wellness. I'm a massage therapy bachelor in nursing, like I said, some schooling in medicine school and chiropractic school. So it's not something that I made up. But when I talk about tarot, I fear people might like disregard the wellness education.
Mhm.
So to be able to reach out to some people and having trouble like putting that on and like showing that part, I have education in it. It's not just like made up. I don't see.
Yeah,
I'm having
it's
trouble
okay.
how to express
okay,
that. I
it's
don't know
okay.
if you're getting what I'm trying to say.
Thank you for saying that, because yes, not every, sometimes some of the special features, wellness, you're talking about wellness, but sometimes some other features that you add in, it's being able to define them to where they connect, because then you got to find your customer that's going to buy that. As a suggestion, I would get a couple of individuals together that are your customers or potential customers and have a focus group and ask them these questions. Ask them, how would I best be able to explain it to where it connects, where somebody will see the connection, and also that would want to buy what that special sauce is to buy it. Julie, help me with this. You see where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, I think there are, first of all, you're in Austin. You are going to find lots of potential customers and clients interested in exactly what you do. And that's not a question of whether it is official science or connected or how you describe it. There are lots of people that are going to care about what you do. What you need to do is figure out where they are. So there are events that they go to. There are stores they already frequent. There are services that they use. And you can do research of those and then find like-minded businesses to partner with, or find the hashtags they're using on social media and jump into those conversations. There's a whole lot that can be done to find those people. A lot.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a whole segment on market analysis in just a second, and that'll tell you where to find that.
That's a little bit more to find that. Thank you.
Perfect. Because it's hard, because I don't feel like I find something online usually that makes both of it. It's either a wellness in the like medical care part, or tarot. And it's not only tarot, it's also I do Reiki, which is any energy work like Reiki, healing touch, and all that. But usually they're separate. In my case, they're mixed. I have found that for me at least, and for the customer that I have had, they work perfectly together. But they just come to me naturally. It's not like I'm looking out for it or by referral. So trying is the first time that I'm trying to reach out to more people, and that's the part that it's complicated, because it's
well, you may have some other questions. Yes, so hold your thought, because you may have some other questions when we get to the next section when we talk about some marketing and whatnot. But good question. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for bringing it up. Okay. Next area I want to share with you is, we were just talking about relationships and partners. You know, Julie just touched on it right now, and talking to Jan. Jan, it's always a little bit about who you know. You know, so you got to know people. It's really just what you know. It's who you know. It's the relationships, partnerships. For instance, I know that a lot of coffee shops they feature artists. You know, instead of putting up just items on their walls, they feature local artists. Do they not? How many times have you walked into a coffee shop and seen some artwork of a local artist featured, or posted on their walls? I see it all the time. I think that's a great relationship, a great partnership. And the reason why is because not only is the coffee shop, and I'm not just talking about coffee shops, but I to have that in mind because I've seen so many artists work on coffee shop walls. And I bought one actually. I bought a couple of them actually from coffee shops because I like the art that I've seen. And I wouldn't have seen it had I not walked into that coffee shop to begin with. But that partnership, you have the artisans that's saying, hey, my art is being featured at this coffee shop. The coffee shop has those customers that they probably would not have gone into the coffee shop. And the coffee shop is benefiting from the relationship, and they're also promoting the local artist. Great deal. It's a win-win for everybody. Julie, I think that's what you were trying to get at when we were talking to Jan a minute ago, is finding where those events, those businesses are to work hand in hand, that it's a win-win for both of them. I think that's what you were referring to.
Yes, that intersection. I also did add in the chat, but want to say that we have an instructor who specializes in resonance repatterning, which is in the same general field of wellness. And she was struggling with the same thing, Jan, and she got her Google listing set up, which is a free thing you can do. Go to google.com/business and set it up. And she did Yelp reviews, and now she's in the top 3 across the board, and her business has taken off. So I think it's something where you find your people by helping them find you.
Great idea. So before I leave this, we're already at the top of the hour, guy. We're already at 3. I know, time flies, does it not? And this is great discussion, but I don't want to leave the relationship and the partners section without hearing, tell me some partners, some relationships that you've developed, any suggestions. I'm going to share with you before you answer that. What I do is I actually donate goats, some goats to some underserved schools in South Texas, where some of the population that attend the schools that want to learn about 4-H and FFA can't afford a goat. So we donate the goats to the schools. The ag teachers, I've gotten to know them well. They know of our business. They know of our goats and whatnot. And so what happens is when somebody does want to buy a goat, who's the first person that they call? They say, hey, call, Ms. Valdez with Chivera, she'll cut you a deal. This is what, she donates to the school. She's been a partner of our school. And you know how it is with kids and with parents. You get a good relationship like that going, heck, that's really where most of my business in the past 10 years has come from. Is from that relationship. Don't get me wrong, breeders buy from me, but a lot of times the ag teacher will say, hey, this parent wants this parent wants this, and it's worked out really well. True story, Julie. That has really worked out for me.
And with your special sauce, they can make payments.
So if anybody wants to chime in or just chat or maybe have a question about how do you seek out relationships and partners, this is the time to do this before we take our break. Anybody?
Kevin added in the chat that networking is key in all caps, and I think he's right. And so does Sharina. I think we can all agree. Jennifer says she partners with a nonprofit that she used to work for and with a few boarding kennels who don't service the type of clients that she does. And that way she has like a network of people that she works with, and they share alike and help each other out.
Brilliant. Oh my gosh, great idea. That probably works really well for her. Mm-hmm. Think out of the box, guys. Think out of the box when it comes to relationships and partners. And Jan, you will find who that is. You just got to do a little bit more research. Okay, a little bit more research. With that, we're at the top of the hour. I've got 3:02. Let's come back at about 8 minutes at 3:10 again. Okay. And so I'm going to go get something to drink and rest my voice, and Julie will do the same, and we'll be back in just a minute. Okay? 3:10. Bye, guys. Hey, Julie, you there?
I am here.
Hey. Do me a favor, just look through the chat and see if you had any other comments or anything
I'm
else.
swimming in the chat. I'm swimming in here. Okay.
Swimming in the
I'm doing the backstroke in the chat. Let's see. Couple of things. Mitzi says, I've struggled a lot to finally break out of the self-doubt shell and finally begin my business plan. So hearing you all share your stories info is really helpful. Thanks. You're welcome, Mitzi. Aw.
It has been do not think it was not without a lot of work and effort, and you've got resources and people that can help you.
Natalia asked a question about what I said about not having to pay business taxes unless you're making scads of money, and quoted me, which is actually exactly what I said. And Texas, it's true that Texas does not have income tax. There is a bracket where if you're making I think the number, this is a guess, I think the number is something like over 27 million in a year, then there is some aspect of taxing, and you do have to pay sales tax. That's different.
Period.
Yeah, you have to pay sales tax no matter who you are, but you don't have to pay income tax. So if you don't have employees, you are understanding it correctly. You're not having to pay anything, except you do have to pay into the sales tax. And I'm not going to make 27 million either, Natalia, so we're good.
Hey, I'm definitely not going to make that with my goods, but that's not what I intended to do.
And Thomas only made 26 million, so he's fine too. Hey, let me answer one other question from Natalia. She said, what would the sales tax be for? And in the toolkit, I have a link to go and look, because it is so strange, the things that they suddenly decide one year or not, or during a legislative session, our state will decide, you got to pay sales tax for this, not that. So you need to check it, because sometimes on the off chance you may need to be charging it. So
it changes. It changes all the time.
And it is on services as well. Not all services, but more than I would have thought. So I'm going to give you the link. She said, thanks. So we're good. The Saluto, the link to the toolkit is something I'm going to give you at the end after you've provided feedback on the class. Sorry, we sort of make it you give us this, we give you that situation. If you're having to leave early, this is for anyone. You can send me a private message. I will give you the feedback link now so that you can get the toolkit a little bit early. Please don't everyone do that. That would be rude and not nice. But if you really
I'm going to be here anyway. And I've got some other information. So yeah, but I get it. We all have lives. I get it.
Yeah, you're busy people running a business. So we understand that 3 hours is a long chunk of time to spend with us. So it's okay. We will accommodate. Okay, that's all I had to share with you, Vicki.
Okay, good. Well, welcome back. This is the last, we're final end of this, and I've got, some information to share, and then we'll bring up the, got some stuff we want to talk about, and then we'll close out with other helpful resources and also the information that Julie just said. But if you do have to leave, just please let her know. So, Julie, you may be busy, so I'm going to continue. Okay. So, other things to consider is, how do your costs factor in? Okay, as you're starting your business, some of you, you're going to have inventory. Got to have some inventory, because if you're going to sell something, you're not going to sell just on demand. Like customer says, I want this, and then you can order it and have it delivered. Some of you may have that kind of situation, but it may be that you don't, because it may be that you were actually creating, if you're an artist, if you are creating a product of some sort, like, you have to have some inventory. Means cost, right? Some labor. You're going to have to get materials shipped in. You're going to have a lot of that. So that you're going to have to figure out also when you're starting your business. When if you take the business plan class, we do talk a little bit about cost, but there's also a funding class that the city offers that can help you figure this out. But inventory. Let me talk first and more specifically about inventory. Inventory, if you have a lot of it, you've got to store it, and it's going to cost you money to store it. So you've got to balance how much you have in inventory and also meet the customer demand. But let me talk to you about about customers. If a customer comes to you and you don't have it because you have a limited amount of inventory, okay? Like if I have a customer that comes to me and wants a specific goat and wants it right then and there, heck, I've got babies that haven't even been born yet, and then I've got to have them for 2 or 3 months. I mean, there's a process, right? It's not like I can just create this goat overnight and say, boom, here's a 3-month-old male goat, and this is the bloodline it comes from. I can't just do it overnight, right? But sometimes the customer can be very impatient, and they can be divas, can they not? And if you don't have what they want at that exact moment of time, what happens? What do? They go somewhere else, do they not? And right now we live in a society where everybody wants everything on demand. Well, that may not have that's the challenge that a local small business owner has to deal with. I have to deal with it with my goats, because I don't care what my customers want. There's some items I'm not going to be able to produce on demand, just because of the nature of my business. So just know that you are going to have some inventory, but if you are in a business where you're worried about turning customers away, then that's where you consider just how much inventory and how much you want to hold. I have some questions about that. If I need to expand a little bit more, Julie, if you want to add to that.
I actually don't have a lot to add to that other than I always have to think in terms of fixed and flexible when it comes to those costs, because it's if you try to put them all in one bucket, it's impossible because some things fluctuate and you've got to be ready to bend a little.
Inventory, I just wanted to bring it up and then just point out that, sometimes the world we live in, customers aren't very forgiving. They want it. They want it and they want it now. And they don't like to wait, do they? Nope, not necessarily. Okay, next thing we're going to discuss is ongoing customer relationships, meaning that, okay, I've got my customer. And I think when you spoke about, how do you retain, I'm going to move this around so I can see a little bit better. I'll put it over how will you continue to acquire new customers? How will you retain new customers? And how can you nurture a loyal base of good customers to keep them coming back? All this is referring to what? Repeat customers, right? Not only acquiring new, but repeat customers, and repeat customers bringing you additional customers as well, making referrals. Who is the best person to market your business if they're happy with your business? It's a customer. Customer word of mouth. How many times do we buy because somebody says to me, hey, you got to try this. It's a great thing. They provide great service. And what do we do? We go check it out, do we not? So this is all about ongoing customer relationships. Important. I want you just to know that it's an important aspect, but you got to think about it when you're looking. I know we talked about products and service, but if you're in a business already and you've already started your business, this is what's key. Really reevaluate how are you acquiring new customers and how you're going to retain them, because it costs a lot of money to go out. Everyone, you pointed it out earlier. If you're still in this class, it's a lot of time and effort to go get a new customer versus keeping a customer happy and knowing they're going to be a repeat customer. Okay. So if anybody want to ask any questions about, challenges about retention, I have a lot of repeat customers, but my business is based on that. It's repeat customers and also the relationship that I have with the ag teachers in the schools that I mentioned that I donate to. That's really proven to be real successful for me as far as customers. Anybody have any questions to that or want me to expand a little bit more or want to share with me how you're looking at this?
I'm not getting any reaction in the chat, but it may be that, we've all sort of been led down the road of relationships are all that really matter.
They're all there. That's all that really matters. We've talked about it earlier. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. So now let's talk about the market. Okay, we have an idea who our target audience is and what they're going to buy, products or services. But let me ask you this: your competition. Talk about competition. Have you given some thought as to who specifically are your competitors? Now, you may have big guys listed in your, on your list as your competitors. I'm talking about small ones that you are going to be in the same arena in as you start or as you're growing your business. If you're already in business where you are, who are your competitors? And I mean specifically define who they are by name. Why is it important to study? Why do you think it's important to study your competition? Either somebody want to mute to have a conversation with me about this, or if you want to put it in the chat.
Are you asking them to talk about how they evaluate their market?
No, the competition. The question was about, have you defined who your define meaning who your competitors are? And I think it was a question I asked. Wait a minute, that's a question I asked. It was about competitors, yeah. And who are they? Who are they? And what can you learn from the competitors? That's what the question really was. Why am I asking you to define your competitors? That was the question. Give me a minute, Julie, but I got there.
I created that confusion. Sorry. No one's answering.
Okay. If you haven't identified your competition, do so. I actually look at breeders throughout the state on a regular basis that sell about the same number of goats that I have and are not generally in my same market, but are in a market like right next door to me that do feed some of the customers that I have that are out of state. I'm going to tell you what it's really important about the competition. You can find out things that they do well. See if you want to offer things that they do as well, products or service, or maybe you don't. It's not anything that you're interested in, but you can also find out opportunities. You can find out where they're missing the mark with their customers, that they're not offering a service or a product that you could possibly offer. The failures that they have. You can learn from the lessons that they have gone through in your competitors so you don't make the same mistakes, but you can also find opportunities that they are not serving that market that you've identified as your target market, and you can service that. I mean, a lot of businesses have been created because they found a gap in the market that their competitors could not provide. Are there opportunities to outshine them? New customer opportunities? Who is left out by the competitors? Has anybody thought about that with your business? And I know I asked a question about, have you identified your competitors? But that's the importance of identifying, really, really writing down, who is my closest competitor in this area, and learn from them. So I know I've benefited from it, in studying my competitors. I don't know if you have, but do you want to share any stories with that?
I'm actually going to share some that are in the chat from other people. Sharina says, my biggest competitor in the event space is a group of men who work at Meta. They have other networks that allow them to reach more people in tech for their events. And I asked them to be invited in some of their chats or discussions as appropriate, so she can reach out to more people in that area. So she's sort of trying to lock arms with others who have reach into a group that she's trying to reach. If that makes sense.
Makes sense. Great idea.
Let's see. Topper says a SWOT analysis.
We're going to cover that next.
Looking ahead. I think Topper's looking ahead at your slides. That's what's happening there.
Oh, good.
And Sharina said, I said it better than her, but I literally read what she wrote. So that's not fair.
Good. Well, I'm going to add a little bit more. I jumped right into evaluating your competition. But this is evaluating your market and opportunity, and the opportunity comes with the competition. But let me jump back here to the market, evaluating the market, in case anybody had any questions about, okay, I think I know my market, but I want to do some more research to evaluate further specifically into my market. One thing that I didn't mention is, the city, of course, I refer back to the city. The city has a lot of wealth of information. But in the City of Austin Library, there is an area for business. I believe it's for business, Julia. I think it's for business because I share it when in the business plan class. We actually go to the City of Austin website, and there's databases. There's A to Z database. There's a lot of different databases where you can actually look up your competition. You can look up the size of your market. You can look up, Julie, help me. There was so much that you can find out from these resources at the library, and it's free. It's free.
And every City of Austin Public Library has a person on staff that's a small business liaison. And if you walk in and ask for that person, they will sit down and help you figure out your market opportunity and the market in the Central Texas area. It's pretty awesome.
For free.
For free. Sorry, I should have included that very important part.
Actually, I shouldn't say free. I got dinged one time years ago by a council member because I used the word free. It's actually at no cost, but it's paid for by the City of Austin. It's like no cost to you. Yeah, I did. I did get dinged one time. Jackie may remember that, Jackie. So next thing we're going to discuss, I don't know who it was that mentioned about the SWOT analysis. Great. On point. If you're not familiar with what a SWOT analysis is, it's research, not only you researching your competitors, okay, but we talked about the Austin small business, the resources for small business at the Austin Public Library. I'm going to talk about coaching, but here it's considering what a SWOT analysis. What is a SWOT analysis? SWOT analysis is literally writing down your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And I got to tell you, when I went through this exercise for my Go business, I'm going to get to the threat here in a minute. But strengths, we had the strengths, we had the business, we had the experience with the animal, we knew breeders and all the things that we were good about that set us apart. That we were able to identify. But I think you're going to find, if you go through this exercise, you're going to find some strengths that you may not have thought were your strengths. Those strengths you need to toot your horn about because that's what you do best. Okay, those are your strengths. Then you had your weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. There are areas to improve in. Okay, do you need any resource? Are they adequate? Do you need to do better than others do it? And I learned a lot from just pointing out because we had weaknesses as well. Opportunities. I never really looked at the opportunities because I thought everything that we thought of, because the strengths are have, well, there's going to be tons of opportunities, but you really, really need to set your goals. Are demand shifting? How can you be improved? Always be looking for gaps in the market. Again, back to looking at your competitors. What are they not offering? Your competitors, you think they're going to be offering the same thing every day, every year? Well, no, they go through changes as well. And I know a lot of businesses that have picked up tons of business because their competitors decided they didn't want to offer that service or product anymore. True story. Happens all the time. What really, really helped me with the SWOT analysis is my go business. I have a go business. I tell you, I have threats. What are blocks that we're facing? What are factors outside of my control? And I'm going to put it out to you guys. What do you think my biggest threat to my go business is? Anybody want to take a wild guess? You can either unmute or put it in the chat.
I know the answer, so I'm not going to guess, but get real basic with real life is my hint to everyone.
And put it in the chat. Now throw it out there. What do you think?
They're guessing sheep, predators, feed, predators, disease, barbacoa, other goat businesses, coyotes, loss of goats.
Oh my gosh, it is the loss of goats and the coyotes. And I got to tell you, those coyotes, if it is a season, a summer, when there is a drought, they just go for the hunt and they kill. They don't care. They don't want to eat the dang goat. They just go for the hunt. And whoever said coyotes, I got to tell you, they are my biggest threat, biggest thorn in my side. I have lost 3/4 of a herd in one night. In a summer over the years, just because it's been massive, catastrophic for me. And did we know that when we first went into this? Probably did. My cousin should have probably said more of it, being the rancher that he is. And no, I'm not putting it all on him. We didn't even think to have the conversation about what that threat was. And sure enough, hit us right between the eyes and, really, really affected us and took us a while, almost decided not to continue the business when we had that big of a hurt. Now you can buy insurances, you can do this and that, but I got to tell you, if you don't identify what your threats are to begin with, how are you able to plan around them? How are you ever planning around them? So Julie, I'm glad. Go ahead.
Gina wants to know if fence rollers work for you.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what works best. We do have the fence, we have the electric fence and whatever, but you know what works best for me? We have the Pyrenees dogs and we have donkeys. The 2 donkeys that we have work well with the dogs, and we didn't have the donkeys at the time, but believe it or not, those 2 donkeys, they really ward off most of the coyotes if they are able to get into the fence.
Wow.
And I think you can, if you know ranching, I think you can probably understand that because they work well with my Pyrenees dogs. Yeah. So you can tell I know goats by that. So good thought. Yes, you've got to look. It's really important to, I recommend that you really go through this exercise. It's in your toolkit, whether you do it by yourself or with somebody else that you're close with so they can be open and honest with you and maybe share some feedback with you, or even with a mentor. This is a great exercise to go through. So whoever mentioned the SWOT analysis earlier, yes, this is what it is, but it's just an analysis of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Julie, you want to add anything to that?
My only statement is this is not a one-time thing. This is something you do probably every quarter because your strengths change, your weaknesses change, certainly your threats change seasonally. So it's something to consider always going back to and reevaluating.
Absolutely. Opportunities are always changing, guys, especially with the world that we live in today. There's always other opportunities, but always self-evaluation. On this one, I wanted to talk a little bit more about threats. And Julie, I'm going to ask you to help me with this. It's the 4 common threats, because I mentioned my threat. My threat is a real animal. It's a coyote. And for those of you that mentioned coyotes, ranching. They're just a pain. Okay, they're just a pain. I put it out there. Julie, go ahead.
Well, these particular threats are held up by Forbes and by Harvard as the 4 critical threats that threaten most small businesses in the first couple of years of their business. And they are the most unpredicted, or people aren't preparing for them. So we wanted to make sure that they were in this class and clearly defined, because they're generally easy to address if you're preparing for them. But if you don't look at them ahead of time, it's very hard to catch up if you're getting hit from behind by these 4 things.
And they are imitation. We talked about Yeti earlier today. How many imitation products that are similar to Yeti are on the market? Think about it. So many. And they've still survived because they've identified it, they planned around it, and they've done well, even with the competitors replicating their model. The holdups, they flex their power. I can't slack. Now the slack in the organization, Julie, I'm going to talk about that. If you work with individuals that you see can start slacking, if you will, or not as efficient or as effective for your business. As you grow your business, people that you work with today may not be the people that you work with tomorrow. Okay. Now, talk about family businesses and having family working with you, in your business. Now, it's a little bit more challenging of a conversation when you find that you have slack with a family member. But if you have individuals that you work with, if they're not proving to be what you want to have in your business, because you're evaluating your business, the productivity, the efficiency of your business and whatnot, you've got to make sure it works for you because you are the business owner. So slack in the organizational complacency. Julie, how do you deal with that? To me, it's either you get with a program or buy, but because I'm the owner, but help me make it not so hard words.
Well, it's really, we've all seen slack in our own businesses, or you've worked for someone, whether you are in a big company or a small company, where you just get it that someone's either checked out or maybe something big has happened in their personal life and they just can't focus on the business, or they've lost that love and feeling. They're not really into it for whatever reason. If someone has pulled back and let loose of the reins, there either needs to be a plan in place for other people to take up those reins, or you need to have a different plan. If it's your own business, this is on you to make sure that someone has hold of those reins. And it's really important to have a crisis plan or something in place for, if I can't be working for 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years, who's going to carry on? And make sure that you have a process in place for handing the reins to someone else in case that happens, just in case. Happens more in nonprofits than for-profit, but it does happen.
It does happen. It does happen. And by the way, the graphic you have, Julie, I'm not thinking coyote, but yeah, that's
I'll change it to a coyote. I'll change it to a coyote just for you, Vicki.
I'm just It fits well with the conversation we're having and the point we're trying to make across about the threats. So yes, I know this is about starting your business and growing your business and whatnot, and rebuilding. But threats, always be mindful of those threats, because even today, you have a threat today, you may have a totally different one by next week, just because of the changing environment that we live in today. So
we have a question from Topper asking for an example of a holdup, meaning a competitor or a customer sidetracks your value with their own product or their own ability to sort of overwhelm and grab your customers. Do you have an example of that, Vicki?
I have a thought, and let me tell you, I don't know if this is going to. I have a thought, but I don't know if this is okay. Walmart. Okay. Walmart sells the same product that I do. Say Walmart sells goats. I sell my goats. Well, Walmart doesn't sell goats, but this is just my thought in giving you the example. Walmart has a larger buying power than I do because I'm a small local business. So they can undercut, they can sell volumes of goats, where I can only sell the amount that I have based on the herd that I have. But because they have such a large amount of goats, they can undercut me because of the price, right? And that happens with any small business. Walmart is known for undercutting and hurting local businesses, correct? No offense to Walmart, but that's kind of how it happens. So that's what comes to mind, Julie, when it comes to giving an example of it. And a competitor could be somebody larger than you, and it could be somebody the same size as you. But at the end of the day, if they want to undercut you in price, You better have something special to keep your customer. If not, the customer's going to go over there, because at the end of the day, we buy based on what? Price.
Right.
Is that a good example of this?
It's great. There's a real life example of it's very similar, that Amazon, when you sell your product on Amazon, sometimes when you're doing well and selling that product a lot, Amazon itself will start to produce a similar product and start to push it ahead of yours. It does happen, and it's not fun when it does happen, because they can mass produce anything.
I wish I could say business is all fair and equitable and people are really, really nice, but sometimes it doesn't. But I've shared with you some thoughts. You've learned some things in this class today to help you always keep one step ahead. But you can't get too just closed-minded with your business that you don't look up, relook at your business plan, your business model, the environment, your customers. I wish I could say that once you start, it's going to be smooth sailing. You've always got to be continually evaluating where you are and where you want to go. You really do.
I would also add that when there's a threat, there's also opportunity. If you are approached or seeing a threat over your shoulder, see that as an opportunity to shift, change, flex, address the concern, but also consider, are these threats options for you to become a threat? Ethically, morally, those are yours. But because it's a threat to you from others means it's also an avenue to growth for you, or a potential avenue of growth for you. I'm not advising anyone to go copy someone else's product or anything like that. I'm all about ethics and moral compass. But if you're threatened by any of these or feel threatened, turn the situation around and find the opportunity in that. Wherever there's chaos, there's opportunity.
There's always another opportunity. There's always another opportunity. Rachel said. Okay. Any other questions in the chat, Julie, or anything else I need to address?
There's a question about whether customers haggling can be a threat. John, do you mean haggling with you on price, or do you mean haggling like they're looking for another price from someone else?
No, I was just thinking, it says, competitors or customers sidetracking your value. If someone, if you know that they're going to be a reliable customer, or if they're offering, a lot of work, but they need it at a lower price, then that might end up being lower than you can actually afford to offer them.
Because it cuts into your margin, and then you can't actually afford to live and eat.
You just mentioned something really, really, really good. Can you afford to do it, John? Stick with your prices, and that customer may not be the customer that you need to work with because they can't afford you. And so I just, when it comes to price, not every breeder in the state wants to do business with me because of my price. Now, if they buy 10 goats and they guarantee me a contract for the next 10 years, for the next 2 years or next year for 10 goats, I'm good with that. But if they don't bring something else to the table other than, hey, I just can't afford it, I'm looking for somebody else.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage to just to turn down customers, but I think probably you also have to turn down customers or you're not charging enough.
You end up running in place. We have a class called Scaling for Growth, and in it I talk about a whiteboard conversation that I had at 3 a.m. with my husband, where he wrote down all of my customers and clients and the number of hours I was spending and what they paid, and broke it down to hourly. And I had clients who were paying $1,000 an hour, and I had clients that were paying about $15 an hour, and I was working way longer on the 15 than the 1,000. And I had to shift all of my thinking. It's not an easy thing to address, but you need to find those customers that understand why you're worth what you're worth, and then replicate those customers instead of just trying to take whoever's there.
Absolutely. Really important. And this applies to any business, John, not just, in the world that you're in. Yeah. Good job. Any other questions? Any last questions? Because I'm going to move into resources and do the last bit of this class. So anybody else have any questions about anything that I discussed today or want some further clarification? Ferna, did you have your hand up?
All right. Yeah, I just had a quick question. It's probably similar to the one in the chat regarding imitation. So I do lawn service, so it's a low barrier to entry, meaning I deal with a lot of, I guess it's a saturated market. So my question is, how would you navigate that dilemma of being in a saturated market where basically, anybody with a mower and a truck can go do the same thing?
If I was in the arena that you're in, or the type of industry that you're in, I'd spend some thought as to what defines me different. What else could I offer that's different? But it's not going to cost me enough, but it's going to ask if the customer is going to want to come to me that somebody else isn't offering. And you mentioned packaging earlier. You mentioned packaging at the beginning of this class, that you were looking at packaging and have somebody, offering somebody, I don't want to say subscription, but repeat customers, a deal, like every 2 weeks, and I will include this. Go through your numbers, really, really pay attention to those numbers and see where, getting that repeat customer is going to be that much more beneficial to you versus going to have to find a new one every time. And that's where you're going to find your answer. Julie, did I make sense with that? I was kind of all over the place on that.
I thought it made sense. I will add a tiny piece to that, is that when you have those particular customers that it really synced, they get you, you get them, it's a great connection. Those are people that you want to ask for referrals and incentivize them to refer you, because what you do is very personal. It's a personal service. You end up looking at their personal information. It's not something that you want to just show to anyone. And it's not something that necessarily people want to post on the internet that they're doing with you, but it is important that they trust you. So going through your best customers to get new customers is going to be the shortest route for you in that particular industry. We do have Candace and Sharina and Alex all said that they have issues with, they're worried about copycats or imitation, or people that have something similar to offer. And I think you spoke to that, but I just want you to know it's bubbling up in the chat. It's a topic.
Okay, one more time. I'm sorry. I was thinking about having you go ahead and launch the evaluation. So as I answer these questions, and then and so that I can expand a little bit further, on this. But guys, before and those of you that still have questions, I'm still going to answer them. But we're launching the evaluation so that you can get the toolkit. And because I finished the slides, what I was going to we're going to talk about helpful resources. But the toolkit has a lot of information. You complete the evaluation, you will receive the toolkit. I thank you a lot for attending this class. If you guys don't want to sit and listen to me answer a lot of the questions, thank you for being here. Thank you to the City of Austin. You've got an amazing amount of resources and classes that you offer. Jackie, congratulations to having the number of individuals that you have in this class, and I wish you the best with it's Fundamentals Week. Is that what it's called this week?
Yes, it is. It's Small Business Fundamentals Week.
Great idea. I'm glad it's really successful. And so with that, Julie, I think you launched the toolkit, right? Or the evaluation?
I launched the evaluation. I want everybody to go into it. It's 5 questions. It'll just take a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to unlock the toolkit while Vicki answers more questions.
And you guys can find me on LinkedIn. You've got my email address. And
I don't see a link, Julie.
I'm putting it in, I promise.
Sorry, Vicki.
That's okay, because I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to answer questions.
Here it is. That's the feedback link.
Okay. So now, question. Julie, you're going to have to help me because I've had to pause and my committee went in another direction. So what were the questions again?
It was really more about imitation and whether how people address that. There's a lot of people in the chat that say they have either other companies are either imitating them or they have very similar products or services, and how to find your distinction in that, and how to protect yourself against the threat of imitation.
Okay, I'm going to start out with, there is always going to be the threat of imitation. Always, always, always. However, imitation doesn't mean exact of what you have or what you have to offer. So you're always going to have to figure out What is the extra piece that I can add that's making me unique? We talked about Summer Moon, the coffee shop. They have their special sauce, if you will. They don't know what your special sauce is, but you've got to find it. If you have trouble identifying what your special sauce is, even though you've got an imitation out there, there's still something that you as a business owner have within what you're able to offer that's going to be unique to what only you can do, because they can't imitate you directly. They may be able to imitate you to as much as they can with the product that they're providing, but you still have something that you can add that's unique. You just got to really dig deep to find that. If you're having challenges and trying to figure out what that is, visit with a coach. The helpful resources that the city of Austin has, aside from the classes, they also have coaches available. Julie has some other resources in the toolkit, Julie, for mentors. Visit with mentors, because individuals that have already been in business, they've dealt with threats a lot, and they've overcome them. I can't specifically speak to specifically what you can offer, but I know with my goat business, the deposits I shared with you, sometimes it's in the form of payment. Sometimes it's in the form of relationships and working. I mentioned the ag teachers. It's forming those relationships, because the ones that are imitating you may not have some of those same relationships. So you can develop those. So therefore you can have customers that don't even want to deal with those that are imitating you. Did that help?
I thought that was great. I thought that was really good.
Let me hear from anybody else in the chat if there's any, because I can expand. Now that you guys are talking about the helpful resources and you've got the toolkit and you're evaluating, this is a question and answer period. We're at the end of the class, and I've already said the thank you, which is me, but give me some other questions. I should ask it differently. What questions do you have now that we finished the topic, the information that I was sharing?
We have a question. Are the 4 critical threats, is that article in the toolkit? The workbook is in the toolkit, and that shows you that article, but I can add a link to that article. No problem. Happy to do that, Topper. Thank you, Jan. She said you exceeded her expectations. I've put the link to the toolkit in the chat. If we can show it really quick, would that be okay, Vicki? If we show them how they can use it, just to make sure everybody understands it.
Okay, and one more time. I'm going to stop sharing. I was going to let you do it.
Yeah, you stop sharing and I'll share it just for ease of.
Go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
Okay, sharing. Okay, you should be seeing my screen, and you should be seeing a blue outline of a screen with lots of different squares, and each square is a tool that we've got in here, and they follow what we talked about. Here's your SWOT analysis worksheet. When you click on it, it's going to open it up and open up a PDF that you can download easily. And when you get into the system, there is a link right here that says use this data. If you click that, it's going to copy this whole little database and put it into your own system called Airtable, which is a tool that we've given you here. If you want to use it, it's free. It doesn't cost any money. If you don't want to use that, you just want to grab this stuff and go, then you find these 3 dots right here, and you click it and you hit download CSV. It will download all of the tools, all of the content, all of the attachments, all of the links, and you'll just have it on your own computer in a CSV, like an Excel spreadsheet. This is not going to go away. You're not going to lose access to it. These are all the links to the city's small business information, the calendar of classes, business plan templates, business model, the little worksheet that's the 1-pager shorter business plan that Vicki talked about, a link to LegalZoom. This is specifically in a name search feature that they have, but LegalZoom is a great tool that we've told you about. Business name search is just another one that's not LegalZoom, so that we aren't advertising. There's a video about finding your value proposition, about figuring out what that secret sauce is for you. And then we've got some other tools that we just recommend for any small business. They're really helpful. Calendly helps you set appointments easily without that back and forth of emails. Airtable, like I said, is the system we use to give you this toolkit, and every class we do for the city has a toolkit like this. So you'd end up, if you took more classes, you would end up with a collection of toolkits for marketing and for all the different things, bookkeeping and all of that. Slack is a communication tool for managing projects with your team. These are all free things. Canva Most of you have found that already, but if you're building a business plan out, Canva is a great tool for that. It's for any kind of graphic or video or presentation, and you can use it free. Grammarly is like spell check, but it checks your grammar too. Great free tool. Sideline.
I love it.
Sideline. We throw this in because it's really helpful and useful for your quality of life. Sideline gives you an extra phone number on your same cell phone. So you're not carrying a separate phone for work, but it gives you a separate number. I got a 512 number. Those are available. You can give a separate ring, separate texting, separate voicemail, all on the same phone so that you don't have to carry two phones, and you can hear that it's a business ring after hours and not answer it and let it go to voicemail and sort of take back your life if you're a busy small business owner. There's a video about businessplans.com, which is the tool that Vicki uses to write business plans in the workshop. There's a link to People Fund, which is a community lender, and they have classes and mentoring. There's a list of job descriptions so that if you are starting your business and you need to hire a few people, then you can go into this link right here and pull down templates, hundreds of templates of different jobs descriptions. And then there's a link to the Austin Library information so that you can find that market analysis help. If you go to the Austin Library, they have databases that nobody else has. And if you go to the city and take the Biz Open class that's listed in the city calendar and you qualify, that qualifies you for free mentoring with the city. I gave you the email address for Danny Brewer at the city for that. If you take that class, the city has an even more robust market analysis database so you can find out all about your competitors and what the opportunity is in the Central Texas market for your business right now, free. All of that is free. If there are any questions about this toolkit, you can ask those, or if you have any questions for Vicki, but we wanted to make sure you had everything before 4 o'clock. So if you need to go, that you can go. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Vicki.
Okay. So, I questions. I mean, I got a little bit of time here. So, any burning questions, last questions or comments?
Okay. One person's having trouble getting the toolkit to download for them. So Jan, I'm gonna message you privately about that. Does it give resources on business lawyers? I'm adding the Texas Business Lawyers Research, service that Vicki mentioned. I'll add it in the next 15 minutes to the system. I just need to wait till we're done and I can add to the toolkit. Is it going to come in a link? The toolkit is in a link. I think I already put it in, but I'm making sure. There's the toolkit right there. I put it in twice. Kiana, yes, you can unmute and ask a question. Please, by all means, do that.
Please. I should have said that.
And Liz, yes, I'm going to add resources for inventory for you and for Chad on the beverages as well.
Hey, this is Chad.
Chad?
Hi. I had one question, and you may have covered this. I had to step away between 2:30 and 3, but I was thinking about putting together, like over the course of a year or something like that, projections for a business. Are there any templates out there or resources that you could point me to that might, I could use that as kind of a standard template to start?
Good question.
Projection. Yeah, thank you. Yes, good question. Julie, in the funding class, I can't remember I know we have a template to figure out the cost to begin with, but I can't remember if there was templates for projections or do we refer them directly to a community lender to help them with projections?
We actually, let me clarify your meaning of projections, Chad, because are you talking about projected budgeting and revenue, or are you talking about projected scale, like adding payroll expenses and all of that as well? Or are you talking about just revenue projections?
Thank you, Julie, because I immediately went revenue. Yeah, I immediately went revenue.
Chad, which one did you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if you could hear me. I was thinking primarily revenue, but I wasn't thinking about scaling the business from a burn down chart of like employees and everything.
Okay, then in the business plans tool that's in the toolkit, there is a whole section in there about how you figure out your projections, and it ends up being based on your market analysis and your opportunity. It's always a little bit mystical, right? I mean, you can never really know, but it's in there.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Vicki, did you want to say something else about that?
No, that was it. My mind immediately went to revenue. So.
Kiona's trying to ask a question, but she can't. She is thinking, she can't get her sound to work. She's thinking about starting a graphic design business and thought of seeking government contracts. Do you have information on obtaining government contracts?
For graphic design work?
There's
Okay,
contracts for everything.
Contracts. Okay, contracts. Couple things about doing business with government. You've got to get registered with a government entity to begin with to be able to do business with them. There is, with the city of Austin, there's a small and minority business resources if you're women-owned, minority. There's also just reaching out directly to the purchasing department of whatever the entity is, whether it's the state of Texas, whether it's the county, whether it's the city. Reach out to the purchasing department, because to be able to be considered on the vendor list for any kind of work that government entities purchase, that the services they want to purchase, you have to register as a vendor with them. They're not going to be able to find you just by looking through Google or whatever, because they don't do that. They look for you to register. So make sure you get registered and you get identified with them. And I got to tell you, you think, my service is not going to be needed by the city of Austin or by a government entity. You'd be surprised what governments purchase. So it's a great idea to go ahead and get registered. It just takes that extra step that you've got to get registered with those entities.
I would recommend for the city of Austin, Julie, if you can put SMBR's link in there, you want to become certified as a maybe wavy. I call it a maybe wavy. It's minority women-owned business. I just call it maybe wavy for short. That's how old school I am, city. I just dated myself big time.
Yes.
I say maybe weeby. I don't even know.
I just dated myself. Definitely get certified with small and minority resource businesses, because we do use graphic designers when our current communications team can't carry the load. So we're always looking for outside help. If you're on the list, it helps. Also, when you're with a big, I'll just use Julie's company, DLM, when they're applying for contracts, there's always the maybe wavy component that they have to, that a company has to, what's the word I'm looking for?
Have a participation from a smaller business or
Yes.
They have to have a participation. They don't just hire contracts 100%, 20% has to go to, they have a goal that they have to reach. And so it's an opportunity for somebody who's a new business or a minority owned business as well.
Right. So definitely get registered with SMBR, and I'm putting my email in the chat. Do not contact and purchasing, because that's going to go to purchasing.
Correct.
Putting my email in the chat.
City, not just the small business office. That's the whole city has goals that they have to meet to make sure that a certain percentage of the city's money is spent on small businesses, especially local small businesses.
Yep.
Right.
Good questions. Good questions.
We're bumping up right against step 4. I want to thank you guys for being here, spending your afternoon with us today. I really appreciate it. One thing that I always tell my my classes, I always say my classes, is that welcome to your new family. You will see these exact same faces class after class, whether it's virtual or when we finally get into being in person again. You will see these exact same people class after class, and you guys will create your own synergy, and you will create a friendship like you've never had before. These are not just people on a screen. This is your small business family. You guys are all going through the same thing. This is the perfect opportunity for you guys to get to know one another, reach out to each other for counsel, for idea creation, have a cup of coffee, hang out, have some drinks, get stupid, make bad choices together, whatever you want to do. This is your new family, whether you like it or not. Our goal with the small business division is helping you succeed, because your success is our success. There's never, and even if you get past this class and you're like, you know what, maybe I need to take a step back. That's still success because you recognize that maybe you need to just step back for a minute and say, okay, let me reevaluate this and really let me see if this is what I need to be doing at this point in time. So that's still a success. I'm here for you. Anytime you need a question asked, if you have a resource that you need that you can't find, I put my email address in there. Call me, email me. I'm here. I'm your beck and call girl.